So yeah, that's why I got all my Sitka gear laid out.
Yeah, I could see that.
Getting ready for our Wisconsin hunt. I'm leaving October 25th. So it's still like a month out.
Okay.
But I want to get everything in order, obviously, get all the classes covered at the gym, get a surplus of podcasts ready to go. Because that's the last thing I want to think about when I'm out in the fucking woods.
Yeah, you just want to go out there and kill something.
Yeah, exactly.
And chill out.
And that's what we're going to do. So yeah, bro, like I told you, I've been looking forward to this episode for, I would say probably 2 or 3 months. Once you started to make a massive shift in your life, bro. And I told you, like, dude, you need to get on the podcast and talk about your fucking massive transformation. Because I honestly think so many Americans right now are in a place where they think about the transformation. They want the transformation. They crave it. But not only are they unwilling to put the work in, they don't even know like what that starting point is.
That's the crazy part is that, being in the military for so long and knowing what that is. And then I want to say you said that on a podcast, but how many people even know what it is to be like a beast, right? Like how many times in somebody's life have they ever just completely dedicated themselves to getting to that ripped 6-pack, big muscles? Like when you walk by that guy in the grocery store, you're like, that guy's a savage.
Yeah.
Like how many people have dedicated themselves to becoming a savage?
Well, and for me, I always say, get fucking savage one time in your life.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And then you have that benchmark and you're like, oh, okay. And it also kind of gives you a belief in yourself. You're like, well, I did it once. Because once you've done it, now you know you can do it. You know, I think a lot of people probably think, like I've literally had people on Instagram write me and be like, bro, you got to understand something. Like you're a genetic freak. And that's why you can get to these places or do these things. And bro, I'm not a genetic freak. Yeah. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Like when I was in the Ranger Regiment, I was running about 12:50 to 13-minute 2-mile, right?
Okay.
Now, to a lot of people, that sounds good. I had guys in my squad that could run it in the high 9s, low 10s.
Oh, man.
Now, the guy that could run it in the 9s, caveat to that, he was like a standout track athlete. Like went through like a collegiate track athlete that then switched to the regiment. Yeah. So 9s aren't normal for anybody, right? But there were plenty of guys that were in the 11s. Like a lot of guys were in the 11s.
That's fucking killing it.
And it's killing it, right?
Yeah, that's killing it.
But when I was in the high 12s, it's like, oh, you're the fucking snail in the back, right? But the funny thing is like when I would go to other military schools, like it's called the Warrior Leadership Course now for your E5. It was PLDC when I went through.
Okay.
Or other military courses where you're integrated with the rest of the Army. I was like a standout stud athlete.
That was something like we were talking about this at work. Me and one of the other older guys on the ship because now I'm the old man. Everybody else is younger, but when we were E4, E5, we had to go to a leadership school, and the leadership school in San Diego was on the SEAL base.
Okay.
So every once in a while there'd be an operator in there, there'd be UD Bubbas in there, like, and you're like, whoa, like I'm just a normal shipboard, like diesel mechanic guy. And you see these guys and you're like, whoa, those dudes are killing it. And we would do like a PT test, and I'm like, I didn't know people could run that fast. Like,
yeah.
Somebody actually maxed out their scores because on the ship, like, yeah, you're up and down ladders all day. And I used to work like in the bowels of the ship, like in the engine rooms, hot, gross, nasty, but you're down there for 12 hours a day. And then you're straight up to your rack, back to sleep. That's your life. Like,
is hot racking a real thing?
It is on submarines, not on surface ships.
Okay. And I guess break that down for people that don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
So hot racking on a submarine, on some of the smaller submarines, you have too many people and not enough racks. So, and it's I don't want to say it's rare, but it's a lot more rare than it used to be. So you'll have 2 super junior guys that are assigned to a rack, and then they're on opposite watch rotations.
Got it.
And then it's basically you get up and you pack your stuff up and you put it on your half of the rack because the rack lifts up.
Okay.
And that's your storage.
So it's your foot locker and your bed all in one, huh?
All in one. And then submarines are super weird because they are just piled on top of each other. And I think the Navy standard rack is 3 feet deep, 3 feet high, and six and 6.5 feet long.
Okay.
So if you're over 6.5 feet,
That's a problem.
you kind of sleep like a banana. Like, so you'll see it like, I never had that problem. I'm
Yeah.
vertically challenged, but the bigger guys, when you walk through a berthing at night, you'll see like a foot, an arm. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a wide dude, right? And you'll see an arm hang out, and you learn to sleep. Like for me, I learned to sleep on my back, arms by my side with like my blankets tucked in, like basically like a burrito, and just I sleep like a zombie. Like don't move, just stay completely still, and that's just how I sleep, because you got to learn to sleep with the rock.
I was just going to say, on those massive ships, are you still feeling
Oh yeah.
the movement of the ocean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Because I've lived on boats. Like I've talked about on the podcast a lot. I grew up a son of a commercial fisherman, but our commercial trawler was 52 feet. So, I mean, to me, that felt like a big boat.
Yeah.
But that's nothing compared to, I mean, what are the fucking size boats you guys are on?
So the smallest one I've ever been on was 224 feet.
Okay.
And that was a minesweeper. So basically think of like a very rich person's large yacht.
Yeah.
And that thing was made of wood and fiberglass. Like still to the day in the Navy, craziest racks I've ever slept in, because my rack actually wasn't a rack. It was just the floor, and they put like a piece of coping. And then the guy above me, and everything on there is wood, because we go out looking for mines.
Okay.
So it's not metal. They don't, because some mines are magnetic.
Yeah.
And the joke is every ship in the Navy can be a minesweeper once.
Yeah.
But we would go out and like look for mines. And when you're sleeping on that thing out to sea, the guy above me, his rack would be like, and you'd like see him flex. And I'm like, that dude's going to end up in my face.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to fall through his rack.
Dude, it's kind of fucking crazy, dude.
It's super crazy.
So you know how I do it on the podcast then, because we have a lot to talk about. I want to hear a lot about your Navy stuff, and then your journey into jiu-jitsu is one of the most powerful ones that I've ever witnessed. But just take it from the beginning, man. Like kind of just an overview of your life story, what drew you to join in the Navy, and kind of what that journey looked like, and then we'll just fucking go for it, dude.
Okay. So I actually signed up delayed entry about a week after my junior year of high school.
Okay.
I just knew that I was going to end up working some kind of bullshit retail job, or like in high school at my last job before I joined the Navy, I worked at All Tune and Lube, changing oil and brakes.
Yeah. What year was this?
2001 I joined.
Okay, so you're
June.
a couple years behind me.
Yep. So I in 99 I signed up, or in 2000 I signed up. And then in June of 01, I graduated on the 6th of June, and on the 12th of June, I was marching down the street at boot camp. Like, what did I do?
Yeah.
I screwed up.
Well, I think, I never had that moment in boot camp where I was like, I want to go home. Right.
Yeah.
But if you sit there and say you didn't have that moment where you're like, what did I do? Or like, you know what I mean? Cause like, on Saturday night, you're at your house banging your girlfriend, drinking beers with the homies. And on Monday morning, you're standing in formation at Fort Benning and talk about culture shock,
Yeah. All my friends, so I joined a year early, with no intention of going on a senior trip, no girlfriend at the time. And then sure shit, I signed up, and about 3 weeks later, I was working at a summer camp.
Yeah.
And I met my girlfriend, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. So then we ended up being together pretty much my whole senior year. And I'm like, how do I get out of the Navy? How do I get out of this? And this was pre 9/11, and the recruiters were like begging people to come in the Navy. And they were like, oh, you signed a contract, you can't get out.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And at that point I was like, well, I guess it's my word. Gotta go.
Well, and thank God that they didn't have an out, right?
Yeah.
Because similarly to you, like I didn't have some patriotic calling to join the military. It was just like you said, like, dude, I don't really want to work retail. I don't want to work construction.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to college. Like I wasn't ready for college.
No, that was my biggest thing. And they were like, because I took the ASVAB, and then they were like, oh, you can do pretty much whatever you want. And I was like, I want a job that doesn't require school. And they looked at me crazy. But But then my recruiter was like, oh, this is awesome. We got a job for you. So originally I had signed up to be an undesignated submariner. Like I was going to be on a submarine with no job. Like we call it the undesignated program.
So I have to ask you this then, because I've only come across a couple submariners in my life, and they seem to be fucking weirdos. And I always wonder, out of everything you can do in the military, what is attractive about going in a metal tube to the bottom of the ocean with a bunch of dudes?
I think my attraction to the whole program was that like there's so many subs in Hawaii. I was
Okay.
like, I want to live in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to go to Hawaii. And so growing up, so this is kind of my military connection is mom and dad joined the Army right out of high school together. Mom had me about a year later. Stayed in the Army for a year or so after I was born, and then got out. Dad switched branches to the Navy. My grandfather's a retired Master Chief in the Navy. My uncle was in the Navy. My stepdad was in the Navy.
So it's become a family tradition.
It was. And my stepdad's dad was in the Air Force. And we grew up in Colorado Springs, not too far from the Air Force Academy. You have Peterson Air Force Base, Schriever Air Force Base, Fort Carson. Everybody assumed I was going to join the Air Force or the Army.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went to the recruiting station. Remember the recruiting stations used to have like all the branches?
They're all co-located.
Yeah, they were in one like shopping center.
And when you're leaving one office, the other branches are like vultures.
Yep.
Hey, have you thought about the Navy?
So it was super funny. I went in to join the Air Force. I was like, I'm going to join the Air Force. This is going to be a great job. The Air Force guy was at lunch, of course, right? We know this now. He was at an extended lunch. I was sitting on the floor outside the Air Force office, and this Navy chief walked by, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm joining the Air Force today." He's like, "Oh, you haven't joined yet?" It's like, "No, I kind of want to work on planes." He's like, "Oh, come outside. He's gonna go smoke a cigarette. Let me tell you about the Navy planes." And I was like, "Okay." And like an hour and a half later, I was in the Navy.
Bro, isn't it? It's funny, but it's also it's how our 17-year-old brains work, you know? Because I had a very similar experience. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL.
Okay.
Ask me why, I can't tell you. Everybody knows Navy SEALs are badass.
Yep.
Right?
Well, especially with the movies in our generation.
Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know what I want to do in life, but I think the military would be a good option for a young man that doesn't know what he wants to do. So let's go do something really hard. I went to the Navy recruiter, and the guy that I was dealing with just seemed like a douchebag. He was very pushy and I could tell like I wanted some preliminary information. I wasn't ready to sign my life away that moment, but you know how recruiters are.
Oh no, they want you to sign right there on the spot.
And then the same thing. I'm walking out of that, and one of the Army guys is standing there. He's like, "Hey," you know, and he had a Ranger tab.
Oh man.
Right?
Yep.
And this guy goes, "Man, if you want to hear about the Army, I'm happy to sit down and talk with you." And he seemed cool as fuck, dude. I was like,
awesome.
And then so in that moment, the conclusion that I drew was Army guys are cool and Navy guys are douchebags. Off of interacting with two human beings.
Yep.
And that caused me to make a career decision.
Yep.
And it's just like, and I bet almost every single young soldier, sailor, airman, Marine has a similar story. Unless, I mean, there's the handful that just, I want to be Marine recon from the time they're 8 or whatever it is, you know?
And a lot of the like SEAL guys, that's kind of how they, at least in my like thought process, like they go to school, and they're like, I want to do that.
Oh, for sure.
The operators across all branches of the military.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do with my life.
I know I'm friends with a lot of SEALs now because through being a Ranger and then obviously the contracting world, it really just immersed me with all the other guys from the special operations community. And you're right. There's a lot of SEAL. Andy Stump is one of them. He's like, I think he knew since he was 9 or 10 or something, you know, and that's what they want to do.
Yeah. I never had that drive. I was like, I just don't want to go to college. I'm really done with school.
I think I just found my dick when I was 10. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry if your mom's going to listen to this, but
no, not at all.
She knows how you got to let her know how the endless endeavor rolls.
No. But yeah, so I joined the Navy, and then I made some pretty funny decisions, I guess, in boot camp. So in boot camp back then, there was no like come in the Navy contracts for like special warfare. And when we were at pool day, day one at pool day, they're like, who wants to be a diver, a SEAL, or an EOD tech? And I was like, that sounds pretty badass. I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we watched.
So was your Is it called MOS in the Navy?
It's called a rate.
A rate. Was your rate then not determined?
Yeah, so I was undetermined. So basically,
I
like,
see.
when you go in as an undesignated
Needs
person,
of the Navy, kind of?
you go to a submarine and then they tell you, oh, you're going to work in whatever job is open on the submarine where we have a gap, and then you'll learn that skill. And then if you decide you want to do that, you can apply to do that, or you can apply to do whatever other job on the submarine that you decide is. And there's very few non-nuclear jobs on the submarine. And I had no desire to go to nuclear school. Nuclear school, I think, is like 2 years long of like legit college.
You know, Sean Baker did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's the other weird thing. Like, so throughout my career now, part of my job was to work on diesel engines and do diesel engine inspections. And on submarines, there's diesel engine. There are an astronomical amount of freakishly tall people on submarines. I don't understand why, because there's no space where you can just stand up. Like they all have this crazy like hunchback. Like David Robinson, right? He was a submarine guy. Like he's like 6'8". I mean, Sean Baker, how tall is he?
6'5", I think.
6'6". Yeah. It's like a thing. You have these like really small people, and then you have these massive people. And I'm like, how do you fit? Because some of their racks are even smaller than like surf ships.
And you know, as 40-year-old men now, when we hear going into the military unrated or without an MOS, it sounds foolish. It sounds silly. Like take control of your life and figure out a direction. But at the end of the day, a 17, 18-year-old kid just going in and kind of letting a path unfold, there's nothing wrong with that either. You know?
Not at all. I mean, it worked out for me.
Yeah.
And it was funny because in boot camp, so I did that. I did the dive thing. You had to take the PST, which is like their physical fitness test.
Mm-hmm.
Took the test. And I actually failed the swim, but I didn't stop swimming. And they were like, get out of the pool. And I just kept swimming. And this guy finally jerked me out of the pool.
Is it because you looked like you were too much distress? Like they have a...
No, they had a time limit.
I see. Okay.
And I'd never in my life... you can only swim breaststroke or side stroke. And I didn't know how to swim side stroke at all. I'd never even heard of it. So I was breaststroking and not very good. And so I finally get to the edge of the pool on my last lap, and the dude jerks me out of the pool. He's like, we told you to fucking stop. And I was like, my bad.
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted to finish. He's like, okay, you can stick around. We'll teach you how to swim. So
they liked that. Yeah.
They appreciated that. So at that point they were like, what's your rate? And I was like, well, I don't have one. I'm undesignated, but you got to pick a rate. So you couldn't be, when I came in the military, you were either like, so me, I was an engineman in the Navy. So you were an engineman, and then in like parentheses, you would be diver or SEAL or EUD, because there wasn't like a SEAL rating or EUD rating or a diver rating. It was whatever rate was available. And then that was like your tag.
So there were some logistics that needed to be checked for you to be part of that program.
Yep.
Okay.
So then I went, and then you go to like a classifier like you do at MEPS.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's like, here's 4 options. So I read through the little 3x5 card that they give you, and I'm like, I was a mechanic before I came in the Navy. I'll do that. So I picked engineman, and then remember I said I met my girlfriend my senior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Completely in love, was going to get married, the whole nine, right? In my head.
Bro, it happens to the best of us.
Yep.
And I don't regret that either.
No.
I think learning about love and women and all that, like, it's a good experience for a young man to go through.
For sure. So then I in the military or in the Navy, we go to boot camp in Great Lakes, Illinois. And then across the street is our like major training base, Great Lakes. And so I went in there and went to A school, which is like your MOS school.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was in A school, I decided I'm going to ask the dive motivator, the like master chief or senior chief diver that was like in charge of wrangling us.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him a question, something to the effect of, hey, when I'm in dive school, am I going to be able to call my girlfriend? And he was like, no, you're going to be in fucking dive school. Learn how to be a fucking diver. And I was like, I don't think I can do that. I'm just going to drop. So I never even went to dive school. I just dropped the dive program, and I just stayed an engineman.
Okay.
And he was like, you're fucking up your life. Good luck. And so I got rid of my contract for that, and I just stayed as an engineman because I was already in A school. And at that point, I basically gave myself an A school. Went to
I
my
see.
went to my first ship and learned my job.
Is that a decision you regret, or are you content with where you're at?
I mean, I'm content where I'm at now. Probably that first 4 years, I was like, what the fuck did I do?
Yeah.
And it was funny because in boot camp, they were like, if you sign another year in the Navy, we'll give you $5,000. I was like, I'm doing 4 years. I'm getting the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, that was my goal the whole time. I'm going to get out. I'm going to go to college, because that in my head and like growing up, you couldn't make something of yourself if you didn't go to college, right? Like that was always
and bro, that was kind of our generation,
that mentality
where it's like, you got to have your degree,
Yep.
or people won't even look at you. You know, there was a time where I would say a 4-year degree was almost the new high school diploma.
I would say like the mid 2000s.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when the like heart of everything was going down. And I mean, I was in the Navy 3 months when 9/11 happened. Like I had just graduated boot camp and I was in A school when 9/11 happened. And then the influx numbers just got insane. Like advancement in the military, like in
bro,
the
you
Navy.
remember the recruiting lines? And I was fucking in regiment being deployed and shit. Like, but you heard stories about, like, Tim Kennedy talked about it. Like, trying to get in the military post 9/11 was like mile long lines and shit.
Yeah, people like that first 2 or 3 years on my ship, we went from like undermanned that first year to like max manning, like right away, because there was just an abundance of people and they were just like flooding in. But
which is cool.
It was cool.
You know what I mean?
And there was that patriotic sense of like, hey, this is my duty. This is my job as a young man in the military.
100%, dude. And you know, I've talked about on the podcast a lot. We have 20 years now to look back and reflect on all the different wars and what they meant, and was it a right decision or was it necessary? All the stuff, but put all that on the back burner. Your country is filled with young men that feel a desire to serve their nation when we got attacked, and that's how it should be. Like, take all the fucking politics out of it and the corruption in DC and stuff. In the foundation of being part of a country like America, a young man should be called to serve if he feels like there's an enemy out there that wants to fucking kill us. And so I mean, that's admirable. I thought it was really cool to see at the time, you know?
It was, and there's a lot of people that are my generation in the military is that's when you know you're old in the military, right? When all your friends start to retire.
Yeah.
And everybody that you grew up with is either retired or on the burner to retire,
bro.
Like,
that
in the next couple of years.
It's funny that all the guys that I was privates with, same thing.
Yeah, they're all punching out.
And there's a handful of them that are still in that are fucking sergeant majors or 06s or whatever, you know. And it's like, yep.
And that's and so I guess the family part of my side, like I always knew that I was gonna like serve, but I had no desire to do that for like anything over that 4 years. And then I made E5 right before. On my last deployment in 2005, or in 2005, I went on deployment and I was an E4 and they meritoriously promoted me to E5. And I was like, well, I guess I got to stick around now. So I stuck around, signed another 4 years. And I'd always told, at that point, I was like, okay, if I get 10 years, then I'll just stick it out. What's another 10 years, right? What other job can you retire at 20 years?
Well, and the thing that's important to talk about that, because I talk about on the show often, it's like 10 years chasing a pension. That's a substantial portion of your life. However, by that point, were you enjoying the journey? Like I was
loving it.
There you go.
I was having a blast. My first 10 years were phenomenal.
So, I mean, once, at least for me in the regiment, dude, once you're an NCO, man, it's smooth sailing.
It was awesome. And then, so I made chief at 9 years. Like E7 at 9 years. And I was like, okay, I can get out now and be satisfied with what I contributed to the military. I had a good run, or I can stick this out and see where it goes. And that first, like I said, that first 10 years, like I grew up in, like it's kind of funny to look back now, but like I grew up in a Southern Baptist home, church on Sunday, church on Wednesday, suit and tie, like no tattoos, like drinking wasn't a thing, drugs wasn't a thing, like very straight and narrow when it came to that. Did we have our road bumps? Yeah. But when I came to the military, I was like, oh, there's a whole nother world out here.
Yeah.
This is awesome. And I like gained this sense of freedom and I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to keep doing this. I'm having so much fun. I know people everywhere. Like, and at that point, I'd finally made it to Hawaii. Like, I finally got stationed in Hawaii, and I was like, this is what I wanted. This
Were
was
you
awesome.
on a sub crew still in Hawaii, or what was
No.
your?
So when I changed rates, I went to a surface rate.
Okay.
So I was an engineman, which is basically a diesel mechanic. And at my 12-year mark, within that job, there's a specialty called diesel engine inspection. So you basically go in and do like forensic analysis. If an engine was to blow up, you would go in and say, oh, that bearing failed, or that component failed, or this is how it failed, or, oh, the maintenance wasn't conducted correctly, so this is why this happened. And I'm talking engines probably the size of this room or bigger. So I got into that specialty, and then that's kind of what I, like, not pigeonholed myself into, but that's what I did for 10 years or 12 years.
Okay.
And then last year, I decided I wanted to go into the command side. So in the Navy, you can stay in your rate all the way to Master Chief, and you can continue to do your job as Master Chief your whole career, and you can retire in that rate. Or you can go the command route, and then, so now I'm more like administrative, I guess you could say. So I work directly for the CO.
What was the decision to go into the command side? Is it just less? I mean, I guess it's less hands-on and then more of a leadership role, correct? Is that?
Yes and no. So my position before I crossed over, I was the like head of engineering department. Like,
Okay.
so that was my job, was to be the senior enlisted person in the engineering department and work for the engineer on the ship. So every ship has an engineer department head, chief engineer is what they're called. And then the top snipe, or because they refer to us as snipes, like pit snipes, which is like the people that work below, make the water, make the electricity, make everything go.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that job, and you're kind of like in charge of the underworld on the ship. And engineers are a special breed of people, which is awesome. But that's where I grew up in, right? They're the like roughneck people of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
They're dirty. They're down there doing God's work when it comes to getting the ship through the water, making the electricity. And the ships I was on were always marine transport.
Okay.
So there might be 3 or 4, like 300, 350 crew, but then we infill 700 Marines. So then you have 700 Marines that are just there. They have nothing to do. They work out, they eat, they sleep, and they shower like 3 times a day. That's all they do. And
they can shoot too, right? Off the side of the ship?
Yeah, they do all kinds of crazy stuff to keep those guys busy, because when you don't keep a Marine busy, like, they get into trouble, even when there's nothing to do.
Because I've heard, I have a lot of buddies from the force community, again, through the contracting world. And that's what they said. Dude, when we're out on ship, we work out and we shoot.
Yep. And they take showers. And like, so so my job was to make the water, and Marine's job is to use the water. And then they're like, at the end of the day, they're like, we're on limited water, so we're going to need you guys to take real quick showers. I'm like, I just made water all fucking day. Fuck those guys. Like, it was always funny because Marines will take showers. Like, they get up, they stand in line for chow, and they'll be in line for chow for 2 hours. And then they'll go get back in line for chow for lunch. Like, it's just like fucking repetitive cycle all day.
Dude.
And then they work out, and then they go shower. And I'm like, fuck, all they do is just suck up all our resources all day. And you're like, what did you provide today? Nothing. Just, you're in my way. You're using all the resources. There's always a line, because those guys have to maintain their haircuts, right? Like, every Marine loves his haircut.
Yeah.
Like, the line to the barbershop would just be like a mile long. Like, that hallway on the ship would just be fucking packed with Marines all day just waiting to get their haircut. I'm like, if I had your haircut right now, I probably wouldn't need another one for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, but they're like, nope, got to get it done every week. Like,
the fucking military standards are crazy, dude.
It's insane. But then when we would get to like the Gulf, like at the heart of like those deployments in 03 and 05, you just dump them off. And they're in those, you know what an AAV is?
No.
They're like, to me, they're like floating death traps. But they're like these track vehicles that they pile 20 or 30 Marines into, and then they fucking drive them off the back of the ship. They sink, and then they pop up like a bobber, and then they're like a little boat until they hit the ground, and then the track takes over. But they have like a little propeller on the back.
Yeah.
But it's nuts, because we're like...
Dude, that shit's crazy, man.
It's insane.
So I had one of my buddies that was a Force Recon Marine. He said part of his duties being on the ship was they'd send him out or his team or whatever, and they dive, go and do like a shoreline assessment, and then test the density of the dirt to make sure that those tracked vehicles could actually make landfall instead of getting fucking like hemmed up and stuck in muck and shit.
Yeah, it's insane.
And he's like, we would do that at night. And so
like on little tiny like boats, probably the size of this table, like six recon guys probably just pile into a little creek and
then do their shoreline assessments in pitch black.
Yep.
And it's like, dude, I'm glad I wasn't.
I've
done one. I've actually done 2 night dives in my life. One to get my certification.
Yeah.
And then one as just something that I thought would be enjoyable. And I was down at the Great Barrier Reef doing a night dive, and it's pitch black. And you got your little light so you can see something about the size of a dinner plate, you know, wherever you shine that light, and then everything else is just pitch black. And I'm like, I don't like this at all.
Yeah,
I'm done night diving.
The time when I was in Hawaii, I was like, I'm gonna get my scuba cert, and I worked at a dive unit, on their boats, and did the maintenance for their like all their transport stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But so you make buddies with those guys, you go out diving, you do some cool dives. But night diving was always sketchy. Like,
bro, it's
so weird because, like you said, you're just kind of in this like tunnel, right? And as long as you only think about what's in your tunnel, you're fine. But if you think about like what's swimming around behind me or what's in front of me that I can't see,
bro, that's me playing mind games. I'm like, there could be a great white shark 25 inches from me, and I have no fucking idea. Yeah. No, thank you. You can call me a pussy, whatever. Night dives aren't my thing, dude.
Yeah, I got swept by a sea turtle in Hawaii. We were diving in caves at night, which is already not smart. But these 2 sea turtles were in the tunnel. We were like in a lava tube, and we're going. And I think it was probably my 3rd or 4th night dive, so I was already a little sketchy. And then you just get that like rush of water, and you're like, what the, like, you trying not to spit your regulator out.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck was that? And then you like catch a glimpse of like a fin, and you're like, thank God.
Fuck, dude. Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. Like, there's a part of me that loves diving, but there's also a part of me that's always like uneasy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my boat parked right on the side of the gym here. It's made by a company called Woldridge, and they did like a promotional shoot, and I took my boat out that day because I'm friends with the owner of the company.
Okay.
And got involved in the shoot. And they had a guy who was like in the water too, like getting footage from underneath.
Like getting the hole and everything.
Yeah. And dude, this fucking sea lion. And for people that don't understand, like there's in Puget Sound, we have seals and we have sea lions.
Which are massive.
Sea lions are like the size of a fucking cow.
Yeah.
They're gigantic.
And super agile.
And dude, this thing popped up right behind the guy. And I'm on the boat, and I can see that this fucking, I don't know, 10-foot beast is literally a foot behind this guy. And they're curious too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I don't know if there's ever an incident of a person being attacked. Actually, there is. There's been.
Yeah.
Did you see that video of that little girl getting pulled off the dock by a giant sea lion?
I did see that.
Yeah, it
it's
jumped
like,
up and grabbed her backpack.
Like an Instagram reel.
Yeah, and just yard. So, I mean, if they feel like being dicks, I guess they can be dicks, right? But the thought of a 2,000-pound beast or whatever it is in the water where you are at the mercy of anything that's in the water. It's dude, it's an uneasy feeling, man. It is what it is.
It is. And like, so I've lived in Guam and Hawaii, and then in Bahrain. I've been like stationed on a bunch of islands, and then Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is like an atoll that's owned by the British that the U.S. military occupies. No civilians. Super weird. But the water there, they say that the water there is just as clean as like the ice caps. So they use that water there for testing because it's a 7-hour flight from Singapore or where's that place we take off from? Italy, maybe.
Okay.
But to get there, and there's just a runway and like this crazy, but there's sharks everywhere. And 2 weeks before I got stationed there, this guy was sitting in like 2 or 3 feet of water, just chilling, watching the sunset, and a tiger shark bit his fucking whole leg off.
Yeah, bro.
And he died immediately.
Fucking nuts, dude.
Insane. And people would dive there. Like the Navy divers would have to dive there. And I'm like, fuck that.
Fuck that, dude.
Because I love fishing. Like deep sea fishing's awesome. But you would be fishing and you would watch, because you could see 60, 70 feet down, and you're reeling your fish in, and here comes some fucking big ass shark just bite your fish right off your line.
Uh-huh.
And like, these dudes literally just hang out below our boat because they know they're going to eat all day.
Yeah.
Like watch my buddy go to scoop a fish out of the water and he comes up with just the head because some fucking shark just bit the whole rest of the body.
Bro, the ocean is it's just filled with monsters that are
It-
trying to eat each other.
It is.
From the tiniest creature in the ocean to your blue whales.
Yep.
They're just looking for other creatures to eat.
Yeah.
You know? Do you know are you familiar with who Paul de Gelder is? Have you heard of him? So he was an Australian Navy diver.
Okay.
And he actually did my show probably 2 years ago now. And he was just doing a routine training operation in Sydney Harbor.
I think I've heard this guy's story. It was on like a Discovery Channel or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. So
I've heard his story.
He's a cool motherfucker, man.
Yeah.
Really, really cool guy. But he got doing a training exercise, and a bull shark came up and bit his leg and his arm off, all in one fucking sweep, dude.
Yeah.
And almost killed him, right? I mean, you're losing so much fucking blood.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny too, because now his whole life has changed, and he's fucking he works for Discovery Channel, and he does diving all over the world now. And he told me, he's like, bro, getting bit by that shark's the best thing that ever happened to me. I wouldn't change it if I could, you know?
That's awesome.
But at the same time, shit happens,
Yeah.
you know? And you know, like everyone will say like, oh, you have a higher percentage of getting ran over crossing the street or crashing your car. Like I get all this. Like
Yeah.
I understand that. But when I have an element of control and an element of say in how my day plays out, just having that control is like, okay, I'm in charge now. Something might still get me, but I have the ability to affect how my day plays out.
Yeah, diving, you're putting yourself in their world.
You're in their world, bro.
And that's something I think about now, just because I've dove all over the place. But like in Guam, there's a ton of sharks, and it's like, well, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And you kind of just get this like little bit of inner peace, and you're like, I'm in their world. I can't run because if I run, I'm gonna explode my lungs or kill myself on accident. So I guess we're just chilling. And like, don't get me wrong, it's crazy to be 100 feet underwater and look at some of the crazy stuff that like in Guam after World War II, they pushed like all the old military vehicles off this cliff, and you can dive on it. And so
it's like a big graveyard of all this old equipment, huh?
It's insane. And the sea life has taken over.
Yeah.
Right? It's been years and years and years, but it's one of the eeriest feelings because you're diving in a graveyard basically of like old equipment, like old salvaged World War II equipment. And the shelf in Guam it's not like gradual, it's just like gone. And you look down and you're like, that's like so deep, like because the water there, the trench, the Marianas Trench is right there, but the shelf off of Guam is just insane. It's not like a nice easy shelf. It's just gone, the abyss, and you can't. I was there one time. I was like, oh man, we're like deeper than 100 feet. We gotta get back to 100 feet. And you look down and you're like, we could just keep going. Like how far could you just keep going before you kill yourself? But
yeah,
it's insane because you just look down and it's just blue to black.
No, it's cool, man. And don't get me wrong. Like I'm saying, it's uneasy and it like comes with some nerves and stuff. And I'll still continue to dive.
Yeah.
Because like I said, as long as I feel like I have somewhat of an element of control, at least in daylight dives, you can be aware of your surroundings.
Yes.
Now it's a false sense of security because any beast down there could do whatever it wanted to you in day or night. Right.
Yep.
But just having the ability to have a little bit of awareness.
Yeah.
That puts me at ease enough where I'll continue. But what I'm referring to is night dives. You won't see me back out there in the fucking dark, bro.
Being up here now in the Pac Northwest, I can't wait to go see orcas. Like I'm stoked to go out.
You're gonna dive with orcas?
Oh hell no!
Oh,
I just want to go out. No, hell no! I don't want to be lunch. I like a little bit of risk, but not just fully throwing myself to the wind.
Well, fuck. They say that there's never been an incident of an orca hurting a human being in the wild.
I was going to say only at SeaWorld, right?
And I don't blame them.
Yeah, no
like,
shit.
Motherfucker, you put me in a pool for 10 years, just wait until I get my opportunity.
That'd be like you having to live in this building and not ever being able to leave the mats, right?
Or worse, probably maybe this room.
I was going to say probably, yeah, like size-wise, yeah.
You know what's crazy, too, is it's like when we were little kids, SeaWorld was just a thing.
Yeah.
Like it's fun, it's cool, everybody likes it, everybody enjoys it. Yeah. Why did it take so long for human beings to kind of unanimously come to the conclusion, like, we probably shouldn't put these gigantic, majestic beasts in swimming pools? It just seems a little unethical.
Yeah.
And I think, you don't have to be some PETA fucking like left wing wacko
Yeah.
to draw that same
No,
conclusion.
I mean, and
I think
even-
everybody kind of agrees, like, yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
I
And the
mean-
same thing with dolphins, man.
yeah, and they're like incredibly intelligent. They don't even know the capabilities of their intelligence.
Yeah.
It's
Did
insane.
you when you were on a minesweeper? Sorry for a segue,
No,
but
you're good.
I had a buddy who was in the Navy, and his rate, I guess you would
Yeah.
call it, was a dolphin trainer
Yeah, so that
to
was
look for mines.
so there. I have a buddy that did that.
Did
too.
you work with those guys on your ship at all?
No. So those guys are based in San Diego. So when I was on a minesweeper, I was actually stationed in Japan.
Okay.
But that is actually the rate is not actually a rate, but it's a job where like I know an Engineman buddy of mine that during his time in the Navy, he applied to go to that unit, and that unit's in San Diego. So they have sea lions. I want to say they have seals and dolphins.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a 24/7 job, right? It's basically like working at SeaWorld. You got to go feed the fucking dolphins. You got to feed the seals, sea lions, the whole nine.
Are those animals capable of being put on a boat and like taken out to sea, or are those things specifically designed to like protect harbors?
So they do all kinds of crazy training. I don't know the extent of that training, but I know they do have like they have like these. They kind of look like the jiu-jitsu mats, but they're like triangles and they fold up, and then they put the water on them, and then they train the dolphins to jump up into the mat, and they close the mat, and they put the water on them until they get them out to wherever they need to train them.
Oh, so that's how they can transport them, huh?
They can transport them far distance, or they can just let them out of their pen and put them wherever they need to do. Because I think they train them do like underhole inspection,
Mm-hmm.
and then also like open ocean mine hunting.
Yeah. Dude, it's fucking nuts.
It's
dude.
crazy, right? That they can teach it. Like, I mean, I guess it would be like kind of teaching like a Malwall, like go find drugs.
Yeah.
We're gonna use this dolphin to go find mines. Like, this is C4. This is what it looks like. Not that I know anything about that topic, but I do have a buddy that worked at that unit in San Diego. I'm pretty sure that unit is shut down.
Oh, really?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that the animals are still there until it's basically like you can't ever release that dolphin back to the wild,
Yeah.
because what's it going to do? Like, nobody's going to feed it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would eat eventually, but it's like
You
releasing
know,
a
it's,
captive
yeah,
animal.
exactly. You
So-
can't just fucking let your dog
Yeah.
out in the woods and
Yeah.
hope you make it.
So, but yeah, there is a unit there, because you would drive by it. You could see the pins from one of the main roads, actually, right by the airport in San Diego. Like when you were driving back towards like Point. Have you been to San Diego? I'm
Oh, yeah.
assuming?
Yep.
So when you're going towards Point Loma, that's where they were at.
Okay.
Like you could see the pins on the road.
I wonder, I mean, maybe just the current climate of our military and who our adversaries are and stuff, if it just didn't make sense anymore to invest in that program.
Well, like
Or I wonder if the pressure of like all the SeaWorld stuff too, if the military is like, yeah, that's
yeah, probably not a good idea.
probably going to not like,
I think also like mine warfare might have been used like in the early 90s, like during the Gulf War. And that's kind of like the last time I think that it's been relevant,
okay.
because we have people in the Navy, their job is like mine warfare. Like that's their job. But I don't think it's relevant in today's day and age. Like the
I
last time
wonder,
we've had a sea battle was
World War II.
World War II.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I wonder, and again, it's like, who knows where the climate of warfare is going to go. But if we get into it with some powerful adversaries, like i.e. China or whatever,
Yeah.
dude, the possibility of battles on the sea
Oh, it's there.
are going to be fucking front and center again.
Did you
know?
watch any of the that 60-minute where they were interviewing the Pacific Fleet Admiral
No.
about that? So there's a interview on 60 Minutes, I think it was last year, basically talking about war with China, and like because their coastline is so large, like we're going to have to use naval assets to get into that like drop zone, basically,
Yeah.
because their land launch missiles travel farther than our sea launch missiles, and we have to get in and basically into the red zone to fire back. So the battle at sea is there.
Yeah.
That's-
Fuck, man.
It's fucking terrifying. Like
I'll
I mean,
tell
at the
you
same
right
time-
now. I'll tell you right now, like, there's so much uncertainty in the near future with just the fucking political climate. But let's hope we don't go to war with China.
Yeah, let's hope that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, human beings, we're fucking fascinate me. It's like we have all of these resources and ability to be able to fucking live like a fucking coexisting peaceful life, but that's not in our DNA. Our DNA is to fucking conquer and
take
and take. And you know, like it's funny too, because with all this shit about like, oh, the white man took over the Native Americans' land, and like people like are all bent out of shape about that. And don't get me wrong, we did. I'm not saying that we didn't.
Yeah.
But Julius Caesar did the same thing to Spain, and Genghis Khan did the same thing to the Mongolian steppe. And it's like every single piece of terrain on planet Earth has been fucking conquered and probably reconquered and conquered again. And that's just what we do. And I feel like in the last maybe 50 years, you know, our wars haven't been about conquering territory really. And people seem to have forgot that, like, man, a lot human beings are driven by that. And, and as resources become less and less available as populations grow, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, World War II was that last land grab.
That's what, yeah, exactly.
And people, those people that were in that war are gone or aging out at this point, right?
Yeah.
But it's crazy to think, even 9/11, we did our like 9/11 presentation this year for the ship, and I was the only person in the room that was in the military during 9/11.
Oh shit.
My whole command.
Yeah.
330 people. The only person that was in the military.
I mean, we have people in the military now that weren't even born on 9/11.
No, and that was the crazy thing is like the people that did the presentation, some of the sailors that did the presentation were using History Channel video clips, and I was like, holy shit. Like, that is the past. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's crazy because that was something that I lived. And now like, not in comparison at all, but you look at those like World War II vets and the Vietnam vets and the Korean War vets and those guys, and even the Gulf War guys, right? Because you were probably in the Army right when the Gulf War guys were either phasing out or they had been in the Gulf War.
Yeah.
And then they were senior folks.
Yep.
Right. And now I'm that senior person that was around when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because there's people on my ship that their parents were in high school or their parents were in junior high when 9/11 happened, and they were born
5 years later.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I mean, I guess what would be 18 now? Like 2005?
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
I was done with my first enlistment. Like,
no, it's weird, man. And on one hand, it's like, and I've talked about this on the show a lot. I don't know where I stand on why we were there or what my service was really about. And, you know, when you hear about the military industrial complex and all those things, but at the same time, we got a good run. Like, joining the military and then being able to be in a force that's actually engaged in fighting. I think that's a big part of what calls to young men to serve, you know?
And it kept calling throughout, right? Because that was part of my mental picture was, I'm serving a good cause. I'm serving the cause. We're still at this. We're still doing this. Never boots on ground, never in a fight, like never in a firefight, but my job was to get the ships there.
Yeah.
And that was hey, you're really good at that. That's what you're going to do.
Well, and bro, I tell people this all the time because, and I saw this in the special operations community, a lot of guys in the special operations community had disdain for what they would call POGs, personnel other than grunt, you know?
Yeah.
And, dude, if you want to eat, if you want your helicopters to work, if you want to get your ammo resupply, if you want your vehicles to work, like, Rangers aren't doing any of that stuff. And so for this machine to be able to conduct boots on the ground where we fast rope out of a Blackhawk and kick a door in, there's so many things on the back end that have to happen. And every job is equally as important. And then the other side of it is not everybody is wired or has the desire to be a door kicker. That's just one small percentage of the Army. And all those support units are what allow you to do that.
Yep.
And so never think of people as like less than or fucking pogues or anything from like hold them in like a degrading standpoint.
Yeah.
Because bro, that's how the fucking mission works.
It does. I
You
mean,
know what I mean?
People show up to do a job and that's their job. And that's something that's really hard now as a senior leader, is to try to convey the importance of every day. This is our job. This is what we do to allow this to happen.
Yeah.
And telling a sailor that you're a warfighter sometimes gets that you're just a crazy old man. Like, you get that weird look, right? And I'm
yeah,
like,
but
no,
you lived
are.
it, where you supported the fucking ships that were sending the Marines and the SEALs out on real world operations.
Yep. And sometimes those Marines didn't come back.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, why is that berthing empty? Never mind. I already know.
Fuck, man.
Like, that's
that's
heavy
that's
shit.
being part of the deal, man.
Yep.
It's
But you get the problem now, I think, that I see is I say we as in the military, has to sell the military as a job. It is not a job. It is a part of a force for good.
yeah.
Right? Like, we are a war machine. And the competition with trying to get an 18-year-old kid to come in the Navy now, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen the numbers for the Army were like something crazy, double-digit thousands, like 10 to 12,000 less this year. They missed their number.
Yeah.
The Navy was 6,000.
Yep.
And the speech coming from above is do more with less, right? Because we don't have the people to do more with.
And do more with less sounds cool, but it's
Yeah.
fucking hard.
And it sucks.
And it sucks.
Because everybody has to do their job and just a little bit more.
Well, and I don't expect you to dive into this much because you're still active duty. And obviously, like, you can't put yourself, you've chose that the military is going to be your career. So you can't put yourself out there and say anything that would be degrading. But from my opinion, now on the outside looking in, I honestly think that a lot of the problems with recruitment are that our citizens are starting to see a distrust with our politicians. And when you have that distrust with our politicians, it's like, oh, wait, these people that don't have my best interests in mind now have say in my physical safety. And now there's a disconnect because we no longer trust the people. And I'm not speaking for you. I'm saying I hear this all the time from my generation, because my generation now, our children are old enough to join the military. Yeah. And I have, like with the boys, talking to them about it, I'm the first to tell them, because, Zach went back and forth on it and was considering it. And I told him, I said, you know what I'd do, bro, if I was you? I'll support you either way because you're a grown man now. But if I were you, I think I'd sit out 4 years, because it's just the political climate is so uncertain. And I think a lot of people are fed up with the way the government is conducting themselves, that it scares them to send our sons and daughters into a force where, if you needed to go to war for the safety of our country, let's fucking go. And I think a lot of people would be down with that. Yeah. But I think a lot of people now are skeptical that our sons and daughters may be used in a manner that is not about defending the country and is more about a political landscape, i.e. the whole Ukraine thing, right? Yeah. And so I see why a lot of people are reluctant to join now. And it's a tough place, because on one hand, just like to circle back, like we said, if we get into a conflict with China, we are going to need a military that is filled with fucking studs that are ready to fucking fight. But I think until our own safety is at risk, people are no longer interested in joining under the current political landscape. And I get it too, Yeah. And so, but again, I don't expect you to interject on that. That's just my opinion. But when you see the numbers that are struggling, it's like, how do we convince young people that the military is still a good option? I don't think it can be on a 10-second or a 20-second ad on television. I think that our leaders need to show us, like, man, the American people are first. And once people feel like that's a true reality, they'd probably be motivated to be part of the deal again,
Yeah. And I mean, you've been overseas, I've been overseas, like, you've been to a third world country. I don't ever want that for us.
No,
Never.
No.
It's fucking terrifying. When you walk down a street in a third world country and somebody's taking a shit on the side of the street because that's where they take shits.
Yeah.
You don't ever want that. I mean, that's what Seattle is now. But that's a whole nother fucking problem.
Yeah.
But
We'd have to have another 2-hour podcast on that. No, you're right, bro. And I say this all the time to my children is that one thing that the military did give me outside of the experience of actual warfare is perspective. Like my middle daughter complained to me one day that our house isn't big enough because her friends live in a mansion, right? She's like, why isn't our house the size of her house? And I said, our house is 2,500 square feet. Like when you look at that from a global perspective, we do live in a fucking mansion.
Yeah.
You know? And I said, when I was in Afghanistan, entire families of like 7 and 8 people, this room.
Yep.
Right here.
Yep. I mean, I've lived in Japan 5.5, 6 years total over the course of the last 20. And when we as Americans like rent an apartment, we're like, man, this is so small. And I'm like, oh yeah, the whole family plus 2 generations lives in this apartment next door.
Yeah.
The same size. And they still sleep like in a room like this with the tatami mats, which are basically like the jiu-jitsu mats on futons on the floor, 3 generations deep.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works. And I think that part of our culture, the like multi-generational culture, it used to be still prevalent in the US, but it has very much gone away.
Yeah, dude,
it's almost frowned upon now. Like you're like, oh, 3 generations of people live in that house. Like, fuck, now they have 20 cars. Like,
and you know what though? I bet those people living on top of each other like sardines with their whole family close and intimate, I bet they're happier than we are.
They are.
You know what I'm saying?
Because the grandparents get to see the grandkids grow up. The grandparents get to be involved in the life, right? Like,
dude, I was watching a show. I forget the name of it, but it's about longevity. And this National Geographic reporter spent like 20 years figuring out what makes people live the longest. So there's these things called the blue zones.
The blue zone. I was going to say Japan's like a huge blue zone.
And Japan is a huge blue zone. Specifically, the farther south you get in Japan, I think it's Okinawa.
So that's an island. So I lived in the southwest corner right next to Nagasaki.
Okay.
Like across the bay from Nagasaki. And it's like farmland and rice fields and stuff. But to see like a 90 or 100-year-old woman walking down the street, totally normal.
Yeah. And so this guy he went and he did all of these like comprehensive assessments of all these different blue zones. And you know what, dude? Their life is simpler. And I think when we say simple, there's almost like negative connotations attached to that. Because like, oh, well, dude, we got fucking Wi-Fi and cell phones and we can fly anywhere. And I honestly think a simpler life is calling to me lately.
Well, so I was thinking about this, right? And we've talked about this podcast for quite a bit. And the reason that like the first time I ever listened to your podcast was I was en route here, but I was driving to Cape Cod. I was out on the East Coast going to a school before I came here to Washington. And it was you, Stanaway, I think Tobin. You guys did like a round table.
Yep.
And you guys just shot the shit. And I was like, man, these guys are kind of like woo-woo. And I don't know if I like that. And I'd never like had that opening, right? And then I came here and I was like, yeah, I need more of that in my life. Like that's something 5 years ago, if you would have told me about like some of the stuff you talk about on your podcast or some of the stuff we talk about like here at the gym and just like listening to Tyler's podcast and listening to the boys talk when they do their roundtable stuff. I'm like 5 years ago, I'd have been like, those dudes are crazy.
Bro, and I share that same sentiment with you. I tell Stanaway all the time, if I'd met you 5 years ago, I'd have thought you were a lunatic.
100%.
Right?
I'd have been like, that dude does too many drugs.
He's
like,
off his meds.
Yeah.
And I think it's also just like a natural progression of aging. But over the last couple of years, especially the COVID era, I think opened up a lot of people's eyes to just like, it doesn't matter where you stand on things politically or where you stand on all the different things surrounding COVID. I think at a bare minimum, it showed people that the things we're told as Americans and the things that are transpiring are two different things.
It made me angry.
Yeah.
Because like you said, I've believed this for 20 years. And the message and the practice were two totally different ball fields.
There you go.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
So that it forces us as men to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, everything that I believed previously, I don't know if it was accurate or not, but now it's under question. And I think I think our government should be under question of the citizens. And the thing that's frustrating to me is once we saw that starting to happen, it was like anybody that questions the government is now the enemy. And it's like, as citizens, we should 100% have the right to question the government on things, regardless if we're right or wrong. We should be able to say, hey, you said this and then you did that. What the fuck's going on? But all the people that like would ask those questions or post that kind of material would get censored and told that they're an extremist and all this stuff. And it started to just make people be like, oh, there's more than meets the eye here. And bro, once you realize that, it's kind of freeing in a way. It came with, yeah, you're right. It comes with a lot of anger. Yep. Because you feel like, fuck, man, I've dedicated so much of my life or I've believed a certain thing. And you know what, dude? Being wrong, it never feels good.
No, it's not. But that was the thing. Like being in the military, yes, you have a questioning attitude to an extent, but you never, like, I don't know about you, but I never felt like my leadership was purposely lying to me.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel that either.
And I never had that. I need to question this. And that's when that thought started to enter my mind. And then I was like, I need to talk to other people outside of because you kind of get sucked into that. That's the other thing with the military is you get kind of sucked into this vortex of all your friends are in the military. All you talk about is the military. Like your identity is attached to your pay grade or to what you do in the Navy or what you do in the military. And I started to realize that prior to with talking with like a mental health coach, I guess you could say. And I was like, maybe I am attached to that. And it took me a long time, like a couple of years to kind of unattach from what I was in the military to who I am. Like, I know that I'm Steven, but before I only knew that I was X, Y, and Z in the Navy.
Yeah.
And then Steven existed, but there was no separation. Like
and bro,
church and state.
Yeah. Right? And bro, I'm here to tell you because it's very similar in law enforcement. It's very easy to identify as a police officer, right? Yep. And I mean, how much longer do you have left I know you have some different options you can take.
I have some options, but it seems like the retirement one is really starting to come to the top.
And that's a year or two out?
Year or two out.
And so here's the reality of the life that you're going to be living very soon. All of that in which you identified as will be in the past. And now it's Steven moving forward.
Yep.
And that's exciting. But at the same time, I think that is one of the hardest things for a lot of veterans to accept. And if they don't have a place, i.e. like a place like this, yep, where you can actually just authentically be you, people start to it causes a lot of turmoil in who they are.
And that's something that I loved about this place from the second I walked in. I was like, I can be me here. Fuck
yeah. Well, let me ask you this then, because you said you were listening to us when you were listening to the show when you were on the East Coast.
Yep.
How did you come across the show?
So I found out in February of February of this year, that I'd been selected for this new position.
Okay.
And then immediately I found out that same day I found out I was selected, I found out I was moving to Washington.
Okay.
From Japan. I was like, okay, I'm moving to Washington. I'm moving back to the United States. I hadn't lived in the U.S. since 2018.
Oh, shit.
So I was like, well, I guess I got to buy a house. Like, got to do adult shit, right? So Scott Grant, his kids used to go here.
Mm-hmm.
He set me up with Novak.
Yep.
And then Novak's team basically helped me buy a house completely sight unseen. I had no idea where I was living, where I was buying, what was going on, but I was like, Scott's a solid dude. We were on the same ship. He says this guy's the best realtor in town. That's who I'm going with. I had a conversation with Mike. Everything was like, yep, this guy's awesome, right? So then he started showing me houses online. His team was like going to houses and videoing for me, sending me, and I was out to sea. Like, so I remember I pulled in to a port for like a couple hours. I like FaceTimed him from the side of my ship. Was like, hey, nice to meet you. Help me buy a house. And I was like, this is a solid dude. And then we were talking about CrossFit and Jiu-Jitsu. So prior to going to Japan in 2021-ish, I had to go to a school in Chicago, and I had just finished 75 Hard, and I
Okay.
had read like 30 books, like a ton of books, right? But I read Jocko's book, and one of the first things Jocko says in his book is every man should try a combat sport. And I was like, seems like a legit thing. Let's try it.
Was that Extreme Ownership?
No, it was his Dichotomy of Leadership.
Okay. Yep.
That one, or it might have been his Field Guide. I've read almost all of his books, but I went to Chicago, and I knew I was only going to be in Chicago for like 3 months. And I had a buddy that was doing jiu-jitsu at the time. He was a blue belt. And I was like, where do I go? And he's like, just Google jiu-jitsu gyms. And the one that was closest to the base was a Gracie Baja. So I went there, I walked through it, and I was like, okay, let's try it out.
And this was in Chicago.
This is in like northern Chicago, where the Great Lakes. So I went there, and then I ended up going there like 2-3 days a week for like a month and a half, and then I had to leave to go to Japan. And I was like, when I go to Japan, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu. I looked it up online. They have classes on base. Like, everything's going to be good. So I went from this like super formal Gracie Baja like academy, right? Like where the warm-up was the same every day. Like we did like very basic stuff. Like it was like a white belt class.
Mhm.
Like there was no like Friday night rolls here.
Well,
totally different vibe there.
Well, bro, and Gracie Baja, from what I understand, and people ask me, what do you think of Gracie Baja? And this is what I always say. It depends on the head professor, right?
Yeah.
But I know a lot of gyms now are reluctant to let guys start rolling. And sometimes live rolls are like something you have to earn after like 6 months of training.
It wasn't like that. There was none of that. But I was going at my lunch break. So it was like a 45-minute class during lunch.
Yep.
But it was mainly like 40 plus guys, right? Like nobody in there was like 22.
Yeah.
Or like gonna rip your fucking arm off. But I did it, and I was like, man, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
When I go to Japan, I mean, I'll try it there. They have a class on base. I'll go to this class. So I went to one class on base. The professor spoke zero English. Everything was like strictly by like visual.
Yep.
And there was like the range of people in the room was very diverse. So you had like the 18-year-old kid that was like super hyped up, but knew nothing that was going to like hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had like the Navy wife, right? Like
Yeah.
it was this crazy group of people, and there was no like organization. There was no like people were wearing whatever gi or whatever ensemble they could get a hold of to participate. So I only went to that class a couple of times, and I was like, I don't like
the
that.
vibe wasn't there.
I was like, I don't like that. And then there was a guy on my ship in Japan that was a blue belt. And when the Marines came on board for one of our deployments there, you only do like 3-month little stints. There was a purple belt, and the Marines do that
McMap. Yep.
So they had mats, and then we had convinced our MWR to buy like jiu-jitsu mats for us to like use in this like vehicle turning area. That's like a pretty decent sized little area, but a jiu-jitsu mat on top of a steel deck never feels good. Like,
People don't understand those
like,
the 1.5-inch mats, even if they're the high quality zebras like we got.
Yeah.
You have to either build a sprung floor, or in our case, we put a gymnastic subfloor down. But yeah, jiu-jitsu mats on concrete, it still feels like concrete.
Yeah, well, we're on like steel with non-skid on top of it. Like, not fun. Went to a couple of those, was like, that's not my thing. But then Novak helped me buy my house, and him and I had like talked back and forth because I had asked him about like the area and like jiu-jitsu and CrossFit, and because I had done CrossFit for a couple of years prior to going to Japan. I was like, I'd like to get back into that when I get back to the States. And he's like, well, my buddy Greg owns Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and there's CrossFit in the building. And this was right before
we moved. We expanded.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And I came here, I think, the first night of downstairs. Like,
Okay.
it was a Friday night.
and welcome to the team.
And Novak is like, he's like, hey, do you want to go to jiu-jitsu? I'm going to jiu-jitsu tonight. And I was like, fuck it, let's go. And he's like, okay, Friday, 6:00. Meet me there. I was like, hey, I don't have a gi. Like, I don't have anything. And he's like, okay, I'll bring you something. Like, how big are you? And I mean, I was like 270, 275. I'm like 5'8", 5'9", 270. And he's like, oh yeah, me too. And I'm like, oh, this guy's like my size. And then I got in and I was like, holy fuck, I'd never met Mike before. And I was like, we are not the same person.
Yeah. Mike is bodybuilder, 270.
Like, he's like fucking solid muscle.
Yeah.
And like, he's like, oh yeah, I got you a gi. And then, so I came to Friday night. Like, that was my first, and I was like, oh, this place is fucking awesome.
Well, before we go into your first day here, because that was a very fucking I mean, the whole reason I wanted to do this episode was from that moment, right? Yeah. But as someone that had done CrossFit previously, had, experienced a little jiu-jitsu, you've been in the military. But at what point did you end up putting your health on the back burner to where you did allow yourself to one day arrive at 275 pounds?
Oh, that was the easy life.
Uh-huh.
Because I've had 2 ACL surgeries. I've had both my hands operated on, and now this bicep is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But
which we wanted to do the podcast before your bicep tour, but yes. We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So when I moved from San Diego, I left San Diego, and I was in good shape in 2018. I was in decent shape. I wasn't like, didn't have a six pack. I wasn't like ripped, but I was in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been at a CrossFit gym for consistent like 2 years at that point, like going regularly, like fully immersed in that. But I was never like ripped or jacked. I was strong, but I wasn't like, if you didn't know that I did CrossFit, you probably would just walk by me and be like, it's just a normal dude,
mm-hmm.
right? I've never had that experience. And the reason I got into CrossFit there is because I tore my ACL the second time, and I'd gotten huge, like massive. And I was like, I need something. Something's got to help me out. But then as soon as I left CrossFit and I was in Bahrain, Guam, Japan, back to back to back. And then COVID all at the same time. It was easier to drink beer, eat pizza, live on Taco Bell, and work and throw myself completely in. And that's where I was talking about being like completely immersed in, this is me. This is my life. My life is wrapped around what I do in the Navy, who I am in the Navy, what my title is, like all that. And all I did was eat shit food, not work out, not like, I was just drinking with the boys, having a good time. You can't do that when you're 35 or 36. Like, it's just, you just went down this path, right? And I felt like I went back to being in my early 20s where you could drink all night and then go to work in the morning and be totally fine.
Yeah.
But when you drink all night at 35 and then you go to work like wanting to punch yourself in the face because you hurt so bad, you can't do that. But it was easy to do that, to wrap myself completely into work. And then as soon as I got off work, well, I earned this drink. I earned this pizza.
Yeah.
I earned this food. And just let myself be okay with that.
Well, and I remember one day when we were discussing your story, you told me, you said, I was of the mindset where like taking care of myself didn't seem like the important thing to do as a leader. What was important is to take care of my men.
Yeah.
Whereas if like, I don't need to take care of myself. I don't need to be healthy. I don't need to eat clean foods. I need to be the best leader that I can be for my men and take care of them. And my health can take a hit. Like almost like you're sacrificing yourself to take care of your men. And then I remember you said though, like, but fuck man, like me taking care of myself is actually the leadership quality that they need to see. You know, it's like, I take care of myself and I hold the line, and now I can expect you to hold the line. And like you came to that realization here.
I did.
You know?
And somebody said something to me that really clicked. It said, the standard you walk by is the standard you accept. And that like cut me deep.
Yeah.
And I was like, look at yourself. Look in the mirror. Like,
well, in Leadership 101, ask nothing of your men that you're unwilling to do yourself.
Correct.
So if you think that they're going to hold the line when we're not holding the line, we can we can scream from the mountaintops, but if we're not doing it ourselves, that lesson is not going to really sink in with them, you know?
And that was the biggest thing. Like, I knew that I needed something to help me get there. And when I felt that here, and it wasn't just getting my ass kicked, right? It was people like you can look at anybody in the gym and know that they hold that standard.
Yeah.
They hold themselves to that standard because, and we've talked about this, right? Like you, Stanaway, the people here are fucking jacked and they walk around like that every day. And when you walk around society today and now, like my eyes being a little more open, I'm like, God damn, when did everybody become fucking obese?
Yeah.
Like everybody. That to see somebody that's jacked and somebody that holds that standard and has that line, you don't see it. Even like I saw some fucking crazy guy outside of Fred Meyer yesterday when I was shopping and the cops were talking to him. One of the cops, fucking jacked. The other cop, his fucking whole gut was hanging out of his fucking vest.
Yeah.
And I was like, how does that fucking crazy person take you serious?
Well, bro.
But I look at that too, like for myself, because now I'm that person at the top and they're all looking at me and I'm not holding that standard, but I am now.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, you are now. And bro, like I've said it. I mean, I've referenced you on the podcast a handful of times because you are, for lack of a better term, the poster child for what I hope this gym provides for people. Because I don't care who the fuck you are. If you don't have a team of people to your left and your right that you can have some accountability with or share the journey with or feel like you're in it together, because we're tribal creatures. When you have those people to your left and your right, getting on the path and staying on the path is exponentially easier.
Yeah.
And on night one, you came up to me afterwards and you said, I want to sign up right now. And I was like, oh, pump the brakes, bro. Yeah. And I remember I always say this to guys. I say, I'm a shitty businessman, but I'm a good coach. Because the business side of the house, I got a guy that wants to sign up. Here, sign right here. Let's get you under contract, blah, 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 all the shit, right? But this gym isn't, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the fact that the gym for the first time ever is financially viable. The gym makes good money now. But that's still not the underlying motivation for who we are and what we do here. And so I always tell people, do a week here and see if we're a good fit for you. Because I want people to share the mats and share this space with the team that want to be here for the right reasons. And so I always say that, like, give the gym a week and then see if you want to be here. And that way, what I find is I typically get guys that this place is important and they're on our vibe and they make good teammates. And if you come to practice here and you feel the vibe, we've done a good job of that. And that's not just me, that's everybody kind of doing their part to hold the line here. And you looked me right in the eyes and you said, I don't want a free week. I want to become a member of this team right now. Yep. And I was like, oh, he's already in.
Yep.
He's already bought off on the culture. He already wants to be part of this team. And so I was like, all right, let's fucking do it. And from that moment forward, you've been here damn near daily.
Yep.
You know? And I don't know if it was, I think it was almost immediately after, within a week or two, when you're like, bro, it's time to change.
Yeah. I mean, so I came in here, I think I was like 270, 275.
Yep.
And I went home that Friday and it took me till Monday to not like want to cry, like getting out of bed. Like my body hurt so fucking bad because I pushed myself to a new level that I hadn't, because in my head, I was still 200 pounds in shape, living okay. Right?
Yeah.
But I didn't have that realization until I came here, and you can't lie to yourself.
You can't be full of shit on the mats.
Not at all.
The mats do not lie.
No, because it lets you know you're a fat piece of shit and you got to get your life together. Because,
well, dude, I say it all the time. The mats don't tell you who you are. They tell you who you aren't.
Yep.
Because a lot of human beings, men in particular, we have this misconception of who we are. And bro, I'm no different. I learned that lesson on the mats too, 20 years ago, where I thought I was capable of some things that I learned very, very quickly that I wasn't. Now, at the time, I was a good athlete. I wasn't overweight, but I still had to have that come to Jesus moment where it's like, oh, I thought I could do this or that, and I can't. And everybody has to learn that lesson to some extent.
Well, I've always had that. I've never looked at myself as like a big guy, but everybody's always like, oh man, you're a big guy. You're a big guy. You'll be all right. You're a big guy. That's been my life.
Yeah.
Since I was probably in 6th grade, right? Oh, you're gonna be a lineman. Oh, you're gonna be a fullback. Like you're gonna wrestle. You're a big guy. You'll be fine. And I never had that like put you in your place moment because so funny story, right? You live in Japan. I am the biggest motherfucker in the room.
Yeah.
When you walk into a bar, you are the biggest person. It gives you that false sense of security, right? And then you walk in here and you're like, oh fuck, I'm fucked, right? I think I rolled.
Did you get around with 7 that night?
I did. Him and like getting tossed by a little guy is like the most humbling experience on the planet.
Because 7 he's probably 145 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
He's one of my purple belts, but he has one speed and it's kill.
Yeah.
But not just a speed of kill. He knows how to kill too. And bro, like I watched 7, like it's funny watching 7 like tune up Sean Baker. Because Sean has over 100 pounds on him.
Yeah.
And 7 will hit him with like a fucking throw or a double leg. And I love when the smaller guys or in particular the females can show these big, strong guys like, hey, if you don't know what you're doing here, you're going to have trouble.
Oh, I rolled with Rachel, 2 weeks ago before I fucked up my bicep? Yeah, I think I got subbed like 4 times.
Yeah, dude.
In one round. And I was like, well, that fucking sucks.
And here's the funny thing too, because like when people say like, I've heard this excuse or like rebuttal to like getting choked out by women, right? And they're like, well, in a real fight, I could just fucking smash her head on the concrete. And it's like, if you and Rachel Anderson went and fought on the concrete to the death, I believe you're going to be the victor. I think everybody will agree to that, right? Because you're 200, well, now you're 230 pounds.
Yeah.
But you grew up wrestling and you're tough and you're strong. But here's the thing. When we take the environment and we put ourselves on a level playing field, right? And a woman can defeat you in a realm of combat. Well, bro, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, yeah, I don't want to have to be able to punch Rachel Anderson in her face to beat her in a fight. I should be able to get on top of her and hold her on the ground because she's a 130-pound woman.
But I can't.
And you can't.
No.
And so that's like, oh, okay. Now there's a spotlight that's being shined on this deficiency. And how do I correct that deficiency? Well, we know how to correct it. It's put more fucking time on the mats. Yep. And that's exactly what you're doing. A lot of people get a spotlight shined on that deficiency and they want to hide from it.
Yeah.
And, bro, hiding from that deficiency does nothing but ensure that you never grow past it. You know?
Yeah. Well, like, so I've had multiple conversations with Tyler, like on the mat, right? Because he just chokes the shit out of me every time.
He chokes the shit out of almost everybody.
Him and Will both.
Yeah.
Will and I have some pretty epic rolls. It's always fun to roll with Will. But Tyler told me, like, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And like, so that wrestler mentality, right? And nobody likes getting their fucking face smashed like in mother's milk. Like that's like the most humiliating position on the planet, 1. And 2, I don't know about you, but I don't like breathing fucking hot air. Like when it's coming off another dude's chest that's 2 inches or smashed in your face.
The funny thing is
drives me insane.
Here's the funny thing. People think because I'm a black belt and I've been doing this for 20 years that like I'm immune to all that stuff. I'm not. Like if Joao gets on top of me and smashes me, and I can find myself in that same state now where it's like I feel anxiety coming in.
Oh, that fight or flight is real.
Yeah. And like, bro, even to this day, certain roles, I never allow that anxiety to dictate my behavior. But bro, there's still times when I'm on the mats and I'm like, okay, pull it together. Okay. Joao's one of your best friends. You're training right now. He's not going to hurt you. Use your jiu-jitsu. Use your jiu-jitsu to find a solution to this. And sometimes I can maybe like get like re-guard or create some space where I can get a couple breaths. And then it's like, okay, see, you're good. And I'm having this like, it's funny. And you'll probably agree with me, but I feel like 2 fucking human beings are inside of my head when I'm on the mats.
Oh, like fighting. Like
yeah.
Full on fighting.
And there's a part of me that still to this day will want to quit. And then there's the other part of me that has to talk shit to that person that wants to quit. And be like, bro, do you want to choose the path of weakness or do you want to try and endure this and find a solution? And bro, that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, because you can't just one day go through some training or go through an experience and now good, I got it now. It's a continuous process. But through that process, I'm to the point now where the percentage of men that can put me in that anxious state are like world champion level grapplers. And I know that if Buchecha slaps and bumps with me, that he could literally bend me over and rape me. I understand that, because
Yeah.
I've been manhandled enough by that monster to know not only am I not there, I'm never going to get there. But the journey of trying to get there is where the magic happens. And it never ends. You just work your way up closer to the top, closer and closer and closer. And then the universe has a handful of men that are at that pinnacle. Like, there's probably nobody that can make Gordon Ryan feel like that right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Congratulations. He's the one out of 8 billion people, right? But for the rest of us, there's always someone bigger and better and more technical and can put you back on your heels and make you revisit what failure feels like, what makes you revisit what fear feels like. And in the time, it doesn't feel good, but that's where the growth happens and that's where the magic happens. And bro, I've seen it in you to where you have progressed. When was that Friday night? How many months has it been now?
That was April, like the very beginning of April.
Okay. And now we're at the end of September. It hasn't been that long.
No.
And in the course of those amount of months, you have completely redefined who you are as a human being, not just physically, but like mentally and emotionally too. Like, our first roll, you were going so hard.
Oh, every fight was the end of my life.
That's
like,
what, yeah.
When I got in here, I was like, these guys are gonna fucking kill me.
Yeah, bro.
And I was like, I gotta go full speed the whole time. And right, I was the quintessential spaz white belt.
Yeah, with some strength and some wrestling, which is literally like the recipe for disaster.
Yes.
But when you find someone with those attributes, well, we got guys like Seven and fucking Tyler and me and Jack and Daniel. Like, bring your frantic wrestler, because we're going to show you through jiu-jitsu that that's not the best option.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it didn't come with a lot of frustration or fear or all the emotions that we just spoke of, but you embraced it, bro. And it's really fascinating for me to see somebody, because how old are you now? You're 40, 40, right? 40. Like, most 40-year-old men aren't willing to redefine themselves really in a moment, you know? Like, you had that conversation with me on that Friday, and you said, hey, I don't want a fucking week trial. I need to be part of this team. And it wasn't like I want to be. I could tell it was I need to be. And bro, that hit me like emotionally. Like, it made me proud to know that the facility that I had envisioned for so long is kind of coming to fruition now. Because this place isn't about building world champions. This place is about making the people in my community better versions of themselves. And not too long after that, you pulled me aside and you're like, I think you said verbatim, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're like, dude, I see fucking you and Tyler like fucking jacked. It's time for me to get there. What do I need to do?
Yep.
And I said, bro, eat fucking meat and fruit, drink water, and train every day. And you said, oh, and I said, and utilize the fucking recovery lounge too. Get in the water, get in the sauna, like
that ice bath is my enemy, but I'm gonna beat that fucking
fuck yeah, bro. And dude, I've been doing the ice bath for 8 years now, and I still have to defeat it. You know,
it's crazy. Like, so I missed that week where I had to go back east to swap cars out.
Yep.
And I came back and I got in the tub, and I was in the tub for like 2 minutes, and I was like, fuck, he must have turned it down. Like, what the fuck's going on? And I got out and I was like, 46. Who's been fucking with the temperature? Like, that's warmer than it normally is.
It's normally 41.
I was like, who's been playing with this fucking thing? And like, why am I being such a bitch about it? Like, get back in the fucking tub.
Well, bro, and that's one of the most impressive things, that when you decided to commit to the gym, you said like, okay, I can train. It's 3 days a week that you do live training, right?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Yep.
But you're hitting the ice almost daily.
Every single day. So Tuesday, Thursday, I normally come in. I do 10-minute sauna, 3 minutes bath, 10 minutes sauna, 3 minutes bath, and then another 10 minutes of sauna. Just like
Yeah.
that's my like roll out, stretch out day.
And bro, like I've watched, I remember the first time you got in the cold plunge. I don't know if you fell or if you just decided to cannonball in.
I think I cannonballed in. And you and Jenny were standing there and just fucking laughing at me.
Because there's water everywhere. It's splashed all over the fucking gym. But apart from that, the physiological response, bro, it put you into fight or flight. Like, and your facial expressions and your physiological response was one of very little control, but you fucking did it.
Yeah.
And then you've done it every fucking day since. And now you just get in that motherfucker. You just get in and you're stoic. And like, just like you just said a minute ago, the pain is still very real. And you're sitting in there thinking like, did somebody fucking turn it down?
Yeah.
But from the outside looking in, bro, you're in control now. And I tell people all the time, you want to take the physiological benefits of the cold plunge, you can go listen to a Rhonda Patrick or a fucking Andrew Huberman podcast, and he can dissect all that for you. But if the physiological benefits of the ice bath were fucking zero, I would still do it because of the mental battle that you have to go through every day. And bro, you crush that mental battle now. And dude, it's a little win. And what you're finding is through your discipline to be on the mats every day, or 3 days a week, to get in the ice every day, to completely radically change your diet, all these little implementing disciplined lifestyle choices, it's completely leveled you up, dude. And I mean, again, you're 230 now, right?
Yeah, like right there. And I
mean, bro, fuck, dude, that's 45 pounds of fat.
Yeah, and just fucking gone.
And when you walk in the room, I mean, the other day, and I'm not trying to say this with any negative connotations because it's just a fact of who you were. When you were 275, your belly stuck out fucking far. Like your profile was that of a guy that was very fat.
Yeah.
And when you stand sideways now, your shirt, it's a straight line to your fucking waistline. And I'm like, dude, Steven is a completely different human being doing nothing more than making good food choices, training jiu-jitsu, and getting in the ice all the time.
Yeah. It's crazy. Well, I think I told you we've had multiple conversations at the end of training, but when I first started here on Fridays, I couldn't roll every roll. And I was like, you have to get to where you can roll every single round for the whole Friday night.
Yeah. Which is 90 minutes of 6 minutes on, 1 minute off.
And that 1 minute is fix your gi, take a sip of water,
find a new partner. That's right, bro. Yeah. And it feels like it's 10 seconds.
It does. Because by the time you pick yourself up off the mat from getting fucking whooped on by somebody, and then you've got all the other gyms that come in and you get to train with all these other people that you don't train with during the week. Because I mean, we roll every day, or Monday and Wednesday after 7 for a half hour.
Yep.
And I mean, those rounds are vicious. But then that 90-minute Friday is like, I live for that. Like I fucking love Fridays. Like those are my jam.
And bro, and in my opinion, live rolling is where your jiu-jitsu really comes alive.
Well, we were talking about being like suffocated fight or flight, right? And I distinctly remember a month ago, I think Jake was fucking like just barreling his big old fucking chest right into my face. And I was like, you can bitch out and tap to pressure, or you can think about this and try to get back to your side or even roll them. Think about it. And it, like you were saying, that two argument going on in your head. And I'm like, you can either bitch out or you can fucking figure it out. And I was like, okay, hook an arm, hook a leg. All right, twist. And like, throw your hip. And I didn't get all the way over, but I got back to my side and I could breathe. And I'm like, okay, fucking work from here. Like shrimp out, start working. And then like, I feel like the wheels like turn more.
Yeah.
And it's not that I just have to fucking go, because when I just go full speed and I'm trying to fucking murder somebody when I have no technique, doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Doesn't
And it's not sustainable. So I tell people this all the time. Like when I was in good shape, my mile time was 6 minutes, about, maybe a little over 6 minutes, because I never got into the 5s, which is something that I'll have to take to the grave. But when we're doing a 6 minute round, I tell guys, think about your 1 mile pace, right? When you're running a 1 mile run, you're pushing pretty hard. You're not taking it easy, but it's also not a fucking 40-yard sprint. If you try and run a 1 mile run at a 40-yard sprint pace, you're good for fucking 10 seconds.
Yep.
And you can fight like a sprint or you can fight like a 1 mile run. And obviously, the better you get, your technique allows you to dictate the pace of it, right?
Yep.
So there's an element of how good your jiu-jitsu gets that really allows you to dictate that pace. But you gain nothing by fighting as hard as you can for a minute and a half, and then the guy's on top of you strangling you. And not only good, you don't get any benefit from that in the gym, but that's not going to be a very applicable way to use your jiu-jitsu in self-defense either. Like, we should be able to, and dude, I've gotten in a handful of altercations where I've used my jiu-jitsu, and it feels so simple that it's shocking to you.
It's just like second nature.
It's second nature. And when you're used to fighting dudes that have answers to positional dominant positions or different holds, you're used to having to fight back. Like they're providing this type of defense, so I have to now have an answer to that defense. People out on the street don't have any answers. They don't have any defense.
Oh.
And so it's like, oh, this is what it's like to just hold somebody.
You're not playing that mental chess game.
No, you're just fucking doing what you do, but you're in control of it. One of our police officers told me not too long ago, because he got in a use of force, and I said, what did you notice different about your use of force? And he goes, the biggest thing was I was calm and I could communicate with my partners. And he goes, I was just holding the guy in knee on belly and he couldn't move. And I looked at my partner and said, hey, why don't you get your cuffs out and grab his arm here and then roll him, and then I'll take this arm. You're now in control of the situation. That's exactly what we're looking for. If you're not in control of the fight, if you're going 100 miles an hour, you're not in control of the fight. You know?
And that's something that translates not only here, but at work too.
Yeah.
Especially for me, because I was always that 0 to 100 fucking spin up yeller, right? That's not me anymore. That's not
bro.
me.
That's for me. That's the highlight of the podcast right there, because jiu-jitsu mirrors life. I say it all the time. You're learning how to control your emotions on the mat, and you've already found that you have more emotional control of yourself at work. And it's fucking fascinating, but it's real, man.
It's super real, and it's crazy because people are like, how do you do that? How do you not just fucking spin up and want to scream and punch somebody? Do I get angry? Yes.
Of course, man.
But I don't go 0 to hero. It's just not me. I'm not a yeller. If I do need to yell, at that point, people will stop and listen. Because the person that yells all the time, nobody's fucking listening.
That's the new baseline. Exactly.
It is. Yeah, nobody's listening to you. But if you can have a calm, cool, collected conversation with somebody and then get your point across and be assertive, and that's something that I've learned here in the short amount of time, right? I've always been that big guy. I always had that mental picture. Oh, I can kick that guy's ass. And then you come in here and you get rolled up by a 140-pound guy. And you're like, okay. And you can't go full speed. Even if you go full speed, they just wrap you up faster. So you're like, okay, calm down. And that mile run, I don't think I've ever heard you say that before, but that is something I've thought about. I'm like, calm, cool, collected. Like, yes, there is an answer to the problem, but you have to think about it. And do you always have the time to like stop and think when you're in the middle of a roll? No, because you'll get fucking choked out.
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, you slowly start to learn that you don't have to go full speed all the time. You don't have to walk yourself into a position, because I kept ending up with guys on my back.
Mm-hmm.
It just kept fucking happening, and I was getting so irritated. I'm like,
it's the wrestler in you, bro.
And I was like, why the fuck is this happening? It's driving me nuts. So I started doing some research, started watching YouTube videos. I'm like, okay, it's the way you go down. It's the way you're letting people take you down. Okay, stop letting them do that. Figure out how to either take them down, or, because I really like that judo throw. That was like my move when I was in high school. Like when I wrestled in high school, I would hip toss people left and right because they just didn't see it coming. Well, guess what? Everybody here sees it coming. They're like, Steven's going to grab my neck and my arm and he's going to try to fucking hip toss me. And now people are like, nope, not today. And they'll fucking throw me over. They'll let me try to hip toss them. And then they just pop my knee out and I'm on the ground on my back getting choked out. And I don't like that. So it was something that I had to learn to calm down, to think, and not just bull rush into a fight.
Yeah.
And that's something now I'm like, oh, I can roll the full 90 minutes. I can roll all class, get sweaty, and then finish class a half hour and feel like I had good rolls. I might not win them, but I'm not there to win every match.
Yeah, you're there to grow every match.
Correct. And I just want to learn. And then I'll stop, like sometimes, like when I roll with like Will or Tyler or Mark, I'm like, what? Okay, we finished our roll. Tell me what I can do to get better. What did I do to open that position up? What do I need to do to not open that position up? And they're all willing to help. That's the other part of this place that I just fucking love. Like, I started here, that first Monday was the first week of 101 upstairs.
Okay.
So I went to 101 for 6 weeks.
Okay.
And Tyler and, man, I feel bad.
Jack.
Yep. They were running 101 basically. Like those two were doing most of the classes. And we got back to the beginning of the curriculum and I was like, we already did this one. Tyler's like, you've been here for 6 weeks. And I'm like, oh shit. He's like, you can go downstairs or you can just stay up here. And I'm like, I think I'm going to do another 6 weeks. So I did the 101 curriculum for another, I think 4 weeks. And then I was like, okay, I can go to regular class. So I come downstairs and I go to regular class and I'm like, oh, this is a new level. Like, okay, get your shit together. And then like, I think you had us do a traditional warm up the first class that I came downstairs, and it was like
forward rolls, shrimping, all that stuff.
And the one where we had to do our side to side on our back.
Yeah.
I was like,
the side shrimp.
I was like, I'm not going to make it through fucking class today. I'm like drenched in sweat. And I'm like, holy shit, it's only been 6 minutes. Like, we have another hour and a half to go. Like, this sucks, but hey, this is the new norm. Like, get with it. And the development.
You caught me on a crazy night because I typically don't do all the movement drills.
Yeah.
I like to use jiu-jitsu to warm up.
Yep.
So I think a lot of my warm-ups are passing, sweeping.
Okay.
Because I think that's the essence of jiu-jitsu. However, you still need to be able to move your body. And a lot of people be like, why is shrimping important in a fight? Cops will say that to me. I've heard that from police officers for fucking 10 years. And I said, you know what? You know why shrimping is important in a fight? Because it's about angles. If I can move my hips, it doesn't matter if I'm on top of you or underneath you or stand up. Stand up's the easiest way to paint the picture of angles, right? If we're squared up and I'm going to punch you and you're going to punch me, we understand that if we're squared up with each other, we can both give and take.
Yep.
As soon as I do a little like sidestep and use footwork to create an angle, it's very easy to where I can punch you and you can't punch me, right? It's a very easily understandable way of articulating it in boxing or kickboxing. It's the exact same thing in jiu-jitsu. If I'm underneath you and I can create an angle to where I'm now more on your flank instead of squared up, well, dude, I have a lot more options now. And in order to be able to create angles, you have to be able to shrimp. And that's where all those drills come alive. Like, people that have been doing jiu-jitsu a lot longer than me came up with all of these different movement patterns. And then the other side of it is, dude, just have a body that works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
To see how much you're like, oh, I can do that. You like watch you do that and you're like, how does he make that look so easy?
And bro,
it's like, it's not even that like complicated of a move. And I'm like, my fucking body doesn't move that way.
And I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but I use jiu-jitsu in real life all the time. Like when I get out of bed in the morning, a lot of times I'll swing my left foot down and use a butterfly hook on the edge on the bottom of my board, the head, or not the headboard, but the board that runs along the side of the bed.
Like the skirt. Yeah.
Yeah. And lift myself up with that. Right. And it's like, I bet non-jiu-jitsu people would never do something like that.
Yeah.
You know? But dude, and again, like not everything we do also has to correlate to a fight. Most of it does. But dude, people go do yoga so they have a higher functioning body, not worried about fighting at all. And it's fucking really good for you, you know?
Well, like just looking to squat down and pick something up off the ground or carry your fucking groceries into
Exactly.
the house, right? Like a lot of it correlates to CrossFit too, but jiu-jitsu, the flexibility you have to have in jiu-jitsu, like when I first got here, I couldn't sit on my knees for like 2 minutes without just like my feet going to sleep.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm like, I make it my like mission to sit on my knees with my feet tucked under me. One, so my toes work properly, right? Because you gotta have your toes.
Yeah, live toes. That's
live
right.
Toes, right? Because when you're up top, it's crazy that split second that it takes to get to live toes will get you caught up.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, work on that. So now that's like part of my routine when I get here is to, one, stretch out my legs so that I can do that. But two, when I'm actively rolling all the time, it's not as hard and my body is getting used to and more stretched out to the fact that I can actually sit on my knees for most of the class now and not have to be like fucking stiff or my feet hurt.
And bro, the lack of mobility is one of the biggest things that's plaguing Americans.
And that's what's going to kill you later in life.
Fuck yes it is. And that's proven.
If you can't fucking leave your house and you can't wipe your ass and you can't shower because you're too fucking immobile.
Just all bound up, dude.
Yeah.
And it's because we sit in chairs like we're sitting in right now to where our hips are at 90 degrees. And for a lot of Americans, that's the max like flexion you get in your hips.
Yep.
So to go farther than that, and you see it with the kids class, because I make the kids sit in deep squat. You got 10-year-olds that can't sit in deep squat. They fall down.
That's
and it's
crazy.
like, fuck, man, like we have to start making our bodies more functional. And again, to go back to what we talked about an hour ago, that show talking about longevity, one of the biggest indicators of longevity is good mobility. And the thing is, like, dude, am I chasing being 100? Like me and Lappin talk about it all the time. It's like, hey, maybe we'll check out at 60. But regardless of how long you're going to live, while I'm here, I want a body that works.
Yeah.
You know, it's important. And it's weird that we've kind of accepted, hey, I just live a lifestyle that makes my body no longer work. And it's like, fuck, man, this is our one shot. I mean, maybe we get reincarnated. I don't know. Like, we'll talk to Tyler about that.
Yep.
But
I mean, that's something that 5 years ago I'd have been like, this dude's out of his fucking mind.
But,
And now I'm like, I wonder who it was.
bro, straight up. And I'm right there with you.
Yep.
And it's actually, it's one thing that we're very guilty of as human beings is thinking we have the answers. And it's like, I've said it on the show a lot, of old like Japanese proverb is like, true wisdom is acknowledging you know nothing. And that kind of sets you free because it's like, okay, I think I have some ideas here. Right, this is my perspective, or this is what I think happens. But once you kind of acknowledge, like, you know what, I don't really know shit though.
Yeah.
Hey, cool.
Let's learn something.
You know?
And that's something that I really enjoy about this as a whole is I enjoy learning.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've always, that's something no matter what, like no matter where I was in life, I've always enjoyed learning something, right? Like my girlfriend was giving me shit because I was watching, so I've been at home for a week now and I got another week to go. And I love watching Power Nation, which is like a car rebuilding. Like that's, I'm a mechanic by trade. Like,
yeah.
That's what I love to do. And then she's like, how do you watch that show? And I'm like, I'm learning something. She's like, you don't even have that kind of car. And I'm like, it could relate eventually. But I'm like learning something about cars. And I'm like, how many people know how to take a heater apart and clean it and put it back together so that you don't have a fucking wet floorboard? Not too many.
Yeah.
But that's something that I enjoy about this process, and something that I can see for the future is that no matter how fucking good you get, you're always going to learn something.
Bro,
your jiu-jitsu is going to train you for the rest of your life.
It never ends. And I also think and it kind of goes right along with that is learning, but also playing, right? I think the American way is you graduate high school and then you either go into the workforce or you go into college. Yep. And then after that, everybody's in the workforce. And it's like your life is now about building an empire financially. And we put play and we put fucking learning on the back burner now.
Yeah.
And bro, like, why do we stop playing? Like jiu-jitsu, you can see it on people's faces. Everybody is in here having fun.
Yeah.
Even though and it's hard for people to understand that have never done it, because we've literally just sat for an hour and 50 minutes saying like, I can't breathe. And I am having a panic attack and they're choking me and their mother's milking me. And it's like, that's a lot of we talk about a lot of the stress inducing side of jiu-jitsu, because that's where the big lessons are learned. But the equal and opposite side of it is we're having fun.
So much.
We're sharing space with a bunch of grown men and women that are just here having fun. And that's why bow out at the end of the night is one of my favorite parts, because I stand up there and lately 40 plus people at every class, bro, the energy in this room is palpable. Their eyes are telling me a story of like a fucking pride and smiles on people's faces. And dude, like that is just as equally as important as all the other stuff we talked about. Like, who has a place where they get to go play? Have you met my buddy Victor, Black Belt Victor?
I don't think so.
He comes up every once in a while.
Was he the one that was with you at Fieldcraft?
Yeah.
Okay, no, I haven't met him.
So he tells me that all the time. He goes, dude, my favorite part of jiu-jitsu is I get to go play for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's weird how when you're a little kid, getting on your bike and driving to the park and then playing on the fucking monkey bars is completely normal. Why can't we do that kind of shit as adults? And you see people playing here. You see people fucking like...
Well, after class, everybody's got a smile. Everybody stands around. Like, class ends at 7:30. I have never been home before 8:15.
Bro, like, I tell people that every day.
I'm going to spend a half hour. One, I'm going to do my recovery. But even when I'm doing my recovery, somebody's going to come up, shoot the shit with me while I'm sitting in the tub. They want to talk to me if I'm in the sauna. Like, people are happy to see you when you get here. They're happy to see you when you leave. They can't wait to see you again.
Yeah.
Right? We were talking about Rachel earlier. She texted me this morning on Instagram. She's like, hey, when are you going to come see the team? I know you're broken.
And you're like, I was here yesterday, bitch.
I was like, well, I'm going to come in on Wednesday and sit around. Like,
hell yeah. Well, bro, and that's a very, very important thing to say, because you tore your bicep. It wasn't at jiu-jitsu. It was doing CrossFit stuff.
Yeah. Fucking CrossFit.
All right. Fucking CrossFit. Same thing with me throwing my back out last month. CrossFit. But one of the most important things for people to remember is if your gym has the culture of just good people that you like immersing yourself, literally come and watch practice when you're hurt.
Yeah.
It does two things. It keeps you immersed in the culture, but also it keeps the normalcy of driving to the gym and being here and sharing time and space here as part of your schedule. Because if you take, because I mean, I know you got a decent amount of recovery time you're looking at on that bicep.
Yeah, like 6 to 9 months.
That's fucking, and I hate that, because you have been on a trajectory like unlike I've seen with anyone here. But as soon as you fucking tore your bicep and you had to have surgery, like one of the first things you said to me is like, well, looks like I'm going to be living on the gym stair climber for the next 6 months. And it's like, you didn't miss a beat. You're like, okay, I got fucked up, but this place is my home. These people are my people, and I'm going to do what I can do now. And it's fucking cool, man. Yeah, it's important.
I mean, I came in here yesterday and I was like, oh, fucking, I'm home. Like, I'm back.
Yeah.
Because I took a week off, right? And it sucked. And I was like, man, I was just back to being healthy. That's what pissed me off so much, is that I had a little bit of shoulder pain. I went on my trip that I had to go to back east. I came back from that. And I was like, fuck yeah, I broke my toes. And I broke my toes, and I was like, okay, I took 2 practices off, and I was like, okay, I can muscle through this. I did that Friday night. I did the next Monday, and then for some reason I missed a day, and then Friday morning, work PT, fucking pop, and I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like, I cannot believe this fucking happened. And then my doctor, like, I talked to my doctor, I'm like, when can I go back to jiu-jitsu? And he's like, what? I'm like, when can I go back to jiu-jitsu? And he's like, let's get through surgery for. I'm like, no, when can we get back to training? Like, when is this going to be like strong enough that I can get like pull? He's like, well, you're probably going to want to not get your arm ripped off. And I was like, okay. I mean, my partners and my team can understand that, and they would leave my arm alone if they understood that, hey, don't wrench on his arm until it's fixed. But I know that because I have the confidence in the people here that are going to take care of me.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
And that's what I love about this place, is that, like, so I went to Guns and Geese, right? I had never in my wildest dreams thought I was going to go to adult summer camp for a weekend and fucking learn how to shoot and do jiu-jitsu with fucking 30 awesome people.
Yeah.
And a couple of them I still talk to all the time on Instagram,
Bro,
on text message.
Every Guns and Geese class, I tell people you're going to forge some friendships here that last the rest of your life.
Yep.
And it happens every single fucking time, dude.
And if you don't know what Guns and Geese is, go look that up on Instagram and go to the next class. Because it's pretty fucking awesome.
Fuck yeah, a little shout out there.
Yeah.
I didn't even pay you to say that.
Well, like Lappin came into town for the last one, and it had been, 2 months since I had seen him. And I walked in here and he was sleeping on the floor, and he was like, Steve?
Yeah, you're what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck happened to you?
Where'd the rest of you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that was something that like really cemented my like thought process here, right? Because there's so many people here that have opened up so many different like things for me to look at, right? Like, I don't think I've been on a hunting trip since I was like 14 or 15 in Colorado, right? I haven't carried a gun like in life ever as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't shot regularly ever as an adult. Like, I'm an engineer in the Navy.
Yeah.
Shoot guns, right? I think we've had that conversation, but now that's a part of my life, and now that's something that's important to me, because there's that mentality like you're not just existing in this world, you need to contribute to this world, and that's something that this place forges in people's minds, not only for the jiu-jitsu aspect, but just as a human.
Yeah. No, dude, it's fucking, I love this shit, man. One thing that you did say about when you decided like, hey, I'm getting on the path and I'm changing my unhealthy habits and I'm going to build a path to being a fucking savage, that some people in your life were kind of like, really? You're not going to eat pizza tonight? Or
the guys at work were like, do you just eat fucking steak every day? And I'm like, that's what I eat, steak and apples. And every once in a while I'll throw a banana in there.
And bro, the funny thing is, it's like you're down 45 pounds of fat eating meat and fruit, and people only have to look at you for 1/2 of a second to realize the profound impact that it's had on your overall health.
Yeah.
But still, people, it's normal to drink beer and eat shit, to the point to where when you decide to change, some people think that that's strange.
It is. It's crazy that you get that. And it wasn't a lot of people in my life. I think I would like to say that I choose to surround myself with people that are overall positive.
Cool. So most people
are
excited about the path you're on.
They're pumped.
Fuck yeah.
And they're cheering me on from afar. They're sending me messages like, man, you've been posting a lot about jiu-jitsu. Like, what's going on? Like, we see you dropping weight, right? Like, I posted that picture. I have the first day I came to jiu-jitsu, I took a picture with Novak, and I keep that picture in my phone. And I'm like, I will never look like that again, ever, because standing next to Novak is intimidating in itself. But like, I'm like, if I ever get to that weight again, that's what I'm gonna look like.
Yeah.
Not fucking fat 270 Steve. I'm gonna be fucking ripped. I want to be Novak with a fucking six pack.
Fuck yeah, bro.
255. Like,
and dude, and you can be.
Yeah.
You can be whatever the fuck you want, dude. Do you have a specific health goal? Or are you just enjoying the process of losing all the fat?
I feel like I would love to be 200 pounds. Like, if I could get to 200 pounds, I think I would be fucking awesome.
Bro, you could get to 200 pounds while you're recovering that bicep.
And that's the plan.
Eat clean as fuck and smash yourself on that fucking stair climber.
Yeah. That thing is a beast, by
bro,
the way.
That's why I bought it. Like, I've worked out on every single piece of exercise equipment there is. And it's like the assault bike. What I find about the assault bike is that can blow your lungs out harder than anything, right? But I'm not looking for like the highest intensity cardio, because I get a lot of that on the mats. Like, if I'm getting around with Daniel, that's like fucking around on the assault bike.
Yep.
Because he's my savage black belt. I can make zero mistakes. And a lot of times it's a 6-minute fucking scramble, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's funny because we just talked about trying to manage your energy and your try. Yeah. But then there's also times where if a guy is very fucking good, maybe I can't slow down in this fight. And those ones are important too, right?
Yeah.
And
That's how I feel with Will.
Yeah.
Like, I have to go full speed because he's just as big and twice as strong. And I'm like, if I stop moving, he's going to pop.
It goes worse.
He's going to pop my fucking head off.
And I tell people all the time, like, managing your energy in a fight a lot of times is from a place of control. So I can get to a place of control and then I can find a breath and I can relax for a second, right? But if you got someone that has you mounted, well, you don't get to have much choice. You got to fight out of that. And sometimes that's exhausting, right? Yep. But my whole point in bringing that up is the assault bike for me, I've moved away from because that was a way of just spiking my fucking heart rate. But the stair climber, bro, you can set that on speed like 7.
That's what I was on the other day.
There you go. And dude, it's not burning your lungs out, but bro, it puts you in the heart rate zone for burning fat. And you hit that for a half hour or 40 minutes or something. And you feel how much work you put in.
I did it for 15. I was like, I'm going to do a half hour. And I put it on there and I was at 7 and I was like 10 minutes in and I was like, and Daniel was sitting there. I was like, don't bitch out. He's sitting there. Right? He was up there stretching. And I was like, if you get off this thing in 10 minutes, he's going to make fun of you.
Yeah.
I was like, just keep going. So then I got to 15 minutes and I was like, I'm fucking dying.
Yeah.
Like, and then I got off I had that little kid leg, like wobbly knees. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I'd heard Matt Fraser. You know who that is?
Yeah. CrossFit champion.
Yeah. He said the one piece of equipment he put in his gym first was a stair climber. It was that same stair climber. And he's like, that thing will smash your fucking ego in a second.
Yep.
And it's crazy because like you said, it's not high intensity. You're not running up the stairs. But when you're just walking repetitively on those stairs for any length of time, your body is like, what the fuck are you doing?
The fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And bro, I also think that correlates to just life fitness more than almost anything. If you can walk up a mountain, because that's what you're doing on that thing. Yep. You're walking up a 45-degree incline, right? Yeah. If you can walk up a mountain for 45 minutes with 0 breaks, that's a life skill that will translate over to so many other aspects of life. It's like, dude, I'm going hunting next week or next month. And what are you hunting? Whitetail out in Wisconsin. Oh, nice. And my buddy's ranch, the terrain on his ranch, like from the cabin to where we fucking hunt, it's literally straight up.
Is this that place you sat in the tree stand for like 8 hours?
Yeah. We're going back there.
Are you going to go do that again?
Of course, bro. I can't wait. And you know what's funny is I like the tree stands. Yeah. Like a lot of people are like tree stand hunting is bullshit, or I'm not looking to. Here's the thing. If I got to go do a Cam Haines hunt and track an elk over a fucking mountain ridge, I'm sure that would be
it'd be epic.
More exciting.
Yeah.
It'd be epic, right? But what I find with tree stand hunting, and I'm by no means an expert, I've done it one trip. Yeah. Man, being out in the woods alone all fucking day is literally just like fucking yeah. Like it's a full decompression, dude.
Well, did you see that like Anthony was out in the woods for basically like 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And I was like, next year I'm going with you.
Hell yeah.
And he was like, cool. Like we were talking about it.
There you go, bro. One more little connection through jiu-jitsu, because Anthony's and Anthony did the podcast, a month or 2 ago. Coolest motherfuckers I know, man.
Super cool. And I was like, I would never met that guy.
Yeah.
No, our path would have never crossed had we not been here. But like I was shooting him a message when he was out there. I was like, how long are you going to be out there? He's like, 2 weeks. And he's like, I think he came to town a couple times to like do laundry, grab some supplies, that kind of stuff. But like when you sit out in the woods and you just sit there for a while, and I think you said it, and maybe he said it during that podcast, the woods come alive.
Fuck yes, they do.
And it's nuts, right? Like the amount of animals and bugs and insects and everything that just walks by you because you become a part of the woods is insane.
Well, and also that's been our relationship with the planet since the beginning of time until, I don't know, 200 years ago or whatever. Like when human beings started making cities and living on top of each other, it's probably when our mental health started to go to shit, you know?
Yeah.
And so like you can literally feel it, and you can call it fucking grounding or like an energy thing, but there's something that happens when you disconnect from society and you go spend a week in the woods. And like, obviously I'm hoping to fill my freezer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I don't even fucking release one arrow next month, I'm still going to be better off for doing the trip. And I know that. And
Yeah.
that's what fucking makes it exciting.
Just
you know?
to decompress and go hang out with some people that are fucking savages.
Yep. And then I take Zach out there and like, you know, Zach's like a son to me, and he turns 21, like literally 3 days before we go out there.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And I mean, he's fucking working full time, and he moved to Central Washington. And so it's also just go out there and bond with people that are important to you, you know?
Yeah.
And I also think that's why hiking has become so powerful for a lot of people.
It's awesome.
Like it's the same fucking deal. You're just not taking animals, you know?
Yep. And my friends in San Diego in 2018, 4 or 5 of us, we climbed Whitney.
Okay.
But we did it like
and Whitney's north of 14,000. It's fucking
the
big mountain.
highest peak in the lower 48.
Yep.
But you can do it in like one day, which is like a 22-hour trip. Like fuck that. We did it in 3 days where you like go in, set up base camp, summit, come back to base camp, and then go back down. One of the most epic trips I've ever done, because you're just out there and nothing else matters. And
dude, like, I feel like our lives are now, it's funny, me and Jenny were just talking about this last night, because I watched there's a Netflix series called The Andes, and it just talks about all the different cultures throughout the Andes Mountains in South America. Yeah. And it's like, dude, I literally want to just go move into some mountain town.
Yeah.
And disappear.
That would be amazing.
Delete my Instagram, delete the podcast. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I love all this stuff. Connecting with listeners and fucking doing the podcast and the gym. Like, for where I'm at in my life right now, I love all this stuff. But I also understand at some point, and that's why the sailing the world is calling to me so much, because at some point I want to unplug from literally everything, have a handful of people that I love and that I cherish share this journey with me, and just go fucking explore, you know?
I sold a house a couple years ago, and I was like, what if I just buy a boat and just get on the ocean? I have never sailed in my life.
Neither have I.
But I was like, I'll figure it out. And I asked my buddy that does sail, I was like, how big is too big for one person? He's like, try to stay in that like 30 to 40 range and you'll be fine. I'm like, okay. And then I was like, okay, let's find a boat. Let's figure it out. Like, I would love to do that when I retire. Like, just go sail and live island to island or whatever.
And bro,
adventure.
you can do that for relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're sailing, you're not under power, you know? Yeah. And so you can live for relatively cheap and have absolute freedom. And it's funny, we're talking about this because me and Jenny, I was in bed last night and I'm like, what's the cheapest places on earth, cost of living, to where you can live, but also I don't want to live in the Sudan where I'm going to get fucking killed by some rival fucking horde, right? Like, you know, one of the places, or the place that kept popping up where you can have the highest quality of life for cheapest, Vietnam.
Wow.
And it said a lot of Westerners that fucking want to just detach from fucking the grind and the rat race that America has become, will move to Vietnam. And it said on I think it was $1,800 a month salary, you can live like an upper middle class life in Vietnam. Houses, like everything. And then it said if you make $4,000 a month in Vietnam, you will live literally like royalty.
Elite.
Yeah, elite. Eating eating at the nicest restaurants every night, having fucking live-in maids. And not that I want people wiping my ass and to fuck, but how cool would it be to where if you can build a retirement through your different businesses or through your retirement in the Navy, to where 10 grand a month, right?
Yep.
I could get 10 grand a month through my different rental properties, the gym, all this different stuff. I also have a VA rating disability, which will be sustainable income, right? Yep. And you could pay these people. Like they said, a live-in maid in Vietnam is $150 a month. Imagine if you gave her double that, what that would do for her life.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and that's still nothing, right? And like be detached from society and then live a life to where I'm chasing like just absolute freedom and decompression, living a simpler life while simultaneously like really enriching the lives of the people that you find yourself that they're working for you or you're working with. And then I said also, like, inevitably start like a little jiu-jitsu school.
Well, I mean, you've talked
Bring-
about Costa Rica a couple of times. Like,
Yeah.
I went to Costa Rica in 2014, 15, somewhere in there. And I was like, I could do this. I could live in a little Costa Rica beach town and just live and do something, figure
Yeah.
something out. But that staycation, I have a buddy that's retired that lives in the DR in Dominican Republic.
Yep.
And he's a retired master chief, no job, owns a house on the beach, like fucking chilling, having a good life. He flies back and forth to the States when he wants to. And then another buddy of mine retired. He lives in Thailand, him and his wife. And they live like fucking kings. Like, they live in this massive fucking house with a big ass pool. They eat at the finest restaurants, right? Like, the cost of living in those countries is almost nothing. And he lives on a compound with security and like doesn't have to, I mean, he just exists at that point. But he's living off of retirement, off rental properties, off the things that he earned to get to that point in life. And now he's enjoying his life.
Bro, I'm telling you, that stuff's calling to me.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm in no rush. I mean, I'm 42. I think like that would be maybe 50 when I'm 50, a plan around that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were talking about it and my daughter's like, we don't want to move. We don't want to live in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I would have to learn a new language, like all this shit, right? And then my middle daughter goes, the same one that was saying that our house is too small, right? So that daughter, she goes, if we move to Vietnam, do you think I could have my own walk-in closet? that was like one of the benchmarks, like
Awesome.
Convincing her, you know?
Yep.
But it's funny, man. Like I think we get too caught up in the traditional way of life where it's like we chase a pension and then we get that. And bro, if statistically, when you retire here and you're living on your pension, your fucking heart explodes in 5 years, especially for military and first responders, right? Because let's be fucking honest, man. Like, I don't even know what a Navy retirement is now. Like, because you're an E9, correct?
Yep.
Are you comfortable throwing numbers around?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you exactly because there's an app for that.
Okay.
And I have mine. Every time I have a bad day at work, I look at the app and I'm like, I can live on that. Somebody's gonna laugh, but hang on, where did it go? I literally have it's called Navy Retire.
Okay.
And it figures out your VA disability. But basically, if I was to retire tomorrow, with 22 years, it's like $86,000 a year with VA.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but I can manage to live on $86,000 a year.
Well,
not here in Washington.
That's
State,
what I'm saying. Exactly.
But
and so like what
else,
you see with a lot of veterans is, and you almost like clockwork, you'll put 20, 25 years in the military and you get out and you got a family, you got a couple kids in college, your mortgage is this. And it's like, oh, I got to go right back to fucking work.
Yeah. People always ask like, oh, what are you going to do when you retire? And I'm like, I don't know yet, because the other thing I really want to do is there's a program called Remote Year, and a friend of a friend did it. He's a retired master chief. And he did it, and it's 12 countries, 12 months. It was $24,000. So I've looked into it as a little bit of inflation now, but it's 12 countries, 12 months. And it was like $32,000 for the year. That's all living expense and airfare included.
And so you're doing a month in each country.
A month in each country, and each country they give you a shared workspace. So basically just a room with a bunch of computers, internet connections, whatever, so you can do a remote job, hence Remote Year, from wherever in the world you are, but then also includes like 2 adventures a month. So they take you on some kind of tourist stuff. But so he was a retired master chief. He had no remote job. He just travel blogged, and he used his time during the workday to go look at sites and do things, and started like travel blogging about it. Now that's what he does. He's living on cruise ships this year.
Okay.
That's his year this year. He's living on cruise ships for a full 365.
That sounds like a nightmare for me.
Yeah.
but to each his own, right?
But he did a year on the Remote Year. Then he did a year during COVID in national parks in an RV in the U.S.
Yep.
During COVID. And then he spent a year in Thailand. And now he's living on cruise ships for the year. He has a YouTube channel called 30 and a Wake Up.
Okay.
I mean, you probably get that,
Yeah, of
that
course.
joke with the military, but that's what he does. And it's awesome. And he lives out of a fucking suitcase, like one little tiny travel, like he's carry on only. And I'm like, I'm going to do that remote year. Like that right there to me lets me explore all these different places to go and live.
Yeah.
And
Bro, I'm on board, dude.
yeah,
And
I'm
like,
all about not like, I would love to own like 20 acres in Tennessee, like up against the Appalachians and have a homestead and live away from people. Like that's kind of my dream, but I don't know if I'm there yet.
well, and also, I mean, it wouldn't be hard to set that up to where you do have that piece of property with a little cabin on it.
Yep.
And whenever this fucking crazy adventure world tour is, I want to wind down and just be an 80-year-old man and sit on my front porch out in the middle of the mountains and drink coffee. That's waiting for you.
Yep.
You know?
And that's part of the plan. Just putting away money, trying to figure out what's next. I think we've talked about that. Like I would love to build off-road trailers. I think that would be super awesome. If I could get into something in the like classic car industry, that'd be even better.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no desire to go, like people ask all the time, oh, what are you going to do when you retire? Not work for the Navy.
Yeah.
Like, I have no
Dude,
desire to do that.
how many people in the military get out and then they do the civilian equivalent of their job right back in the military?
So that's my old job, the diesel inspector world. I could walk out of the Navy tomorrow and be a GS-12 the next day. I have no desire to do that because all of the guys that do that, a lot of them were really good friends of mine, but they're angry, old, grumpy.
Just more of the same.
And like, I don't need that in my life. I really don't.
You know what's funny talking about classic cars? Because my dad was into classic cars, right? And so he was a commercial fisherman, and then he also had a transmission shop, like turning wrenches, right?
Yep.
And when he decided to put all that behind him and just basically retire, and the way that he was able to do that is through rental properties.
Yep.
Him and my mom would always strategically like buy a new house and then turn it into a rental property and buy this and rental property. So once he did that enough to where he's like, oh, I can now retire and just do classic car stuff as a hobby instead of a profession now. You know what he found? Making more money.
Yeah.
With his classic car hobby than he was making as an actual, like, having an actual transmission shop.
Like turning wrenches.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
crazy.
And he wouldn't even hardly put any work in. He fell in love with buying and selling. And he'd scour eBay and be like, oh, look at this old 30s, whatever Cadillac. I'm going to drive down to California and throw that on the flatbed, drive it back up, and then find a buyer and just like,
yep,
dude, there's a way, you know?
Yeah, no. And I think you've talked about that before, but like finding that next thing to make your money, to make you happy, to like further your life, right? To be able to eventually walk away at 50, 55 and say, my life is on autopilot. The money's coming in.
Bro, I think
myself up.
It's a responsibility that we do that for ourselves. And I think our 40s is probably where you can really set these wheels in motion for those plans to come to fruition. But dude, when I go into Ace Hardware and I need help with plumbing and the guy that's helping me is 65 years old, it's like, unless he just enjoys that, he's a retired plumber and he likes talking to the community, cool, right?
Yep.
But if he has to do that, man, I don't know what I would do if I found myself there.
No, and that's always like a joke in our like community in the Navy, right? It's like, I would love to be the guy that works in the plumbing section that knows way too much about plumbing fittings, but I'm only there because I fucking want to be, right? Like,
so see, I knew your joke, right?
Yeah, I was like, I just want to be there, like, because the military is great, but we're so overinvested in every day to day, knowing every single entity of your life as a leader. Like, at the end of the day, I want to work a job where I don't care if the guy that works in washers and dryers got a DUI last night.
Yeah,
as long as
exactly.
he covers his fucking shift, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Take all that fucking stress.
All that stress that goes away. But we go back to what you said about people, like, their hearts exploding and having this like momentous occasion after they get out of the Navy. And I truly believe now that those people are the people that have completely attached their identity to who they were in the military.
That's their purpose.
And there's a speech that was given by the Undersecretary of Defense called the Styrofoam Cup. And I make my chiefs listen to that speech because everybody deserves a Styrofoam Cup. And he talks about how when he was the Undersecretary of the Navy, he comes in, somebody picks him up. He flew in on a private flight. Somebody picks him up at the airport. They carry his bags. They pick him up the next morning at the hotel. They give him a ceramic coffee cup with his name on it. He gives a speech. Everybody claps. They take him back to the hotel. They take him back to the private airline. The next year he comes in. He's no longer the Secretary of Defense or Undersecretary of Defense. He hauls his bags from baggage claim. He finds a cab. He gets a hotel. He comes, he walks in the front door of the venue, he finds his way backstage, and he asks somebody, hey, you guys got any coffee? And the guy's like, yeah, over there. And there's a pile of Styrofoam cups, and there's a coffee pot. So he makes himself a cup of coffee, and he goes up and gives his speech, and he stops his speech. And he says, the ceramic coffee cup is not meant for you. It is meant for your title. And until you realize that the accolades and the special treatment and that part of your life is meant for your position and not you, everybody deserves a Styrofoam cup.
Bro, that gave me chills.
Yeah, like it gives me chills every time I talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it took me a really long time as a senior leader to realize that people were not being nice to me because it was me.
Yeah.
Until I was truly me. And until I realized that nobody gives a shit about my rank, right? I mean, that's what they give a shit about. They don't give a shit about me.
Mm-hmm.
They give a shit about my rank. And I don't want people to do that. I don't want my troops to do that. I want my troops to respect me as a man.
Yeah.
And as a person. And that's something that this place is providing with me.
Fuck, bro. Well, dude, I don't think we can end on a better note than that.
No, that's pretty awesome.
We're 2 hours and 21 minutes in. It just flew by, bro.
That's crazy.
You know?
I did bring you a couple things. One, this is a coin from our ship, from the Chief's Mess.
Fuck yeah.
So I'm on the USS John Paul Jones, and I have not yet begun to fight, is his motto, right? So this is our Chief's Mess coin.
Thank you, man. And it's going to go right there on my coin board. I've got a lot of coins from people over the years. This might be the nicest one on the board, dude.
We're actually getting ready to. So our ship was in Hawaii for like 10 years.
And I'll hold that up for people on YouTube can see. And it is in the shape of a sea turtle.
So we were in Hawaii for 10 years, the ship was. So everything was based on like Hawaii stuff. Well, now we're a Pac Northwest ship. We're getting ready to redesign a new coin, and I'll get you one, but we're making the new coin either a Sasquatch or an orca.
Okay.
And once I get one, I'll bring you one.
Fuck yeah.
And then I know you're a headlamp guy.
Oh, dude.
So this one is kind of cool. So on the back here, you can see that little thing.
Yeah.
It's a motion sensor. So you can turn the light on and off with your hand.
Okay.
But
I'm so excited about this. I was telling Jenny last night, I was like, I haven't bought a headlamp in a month or two. I'm getting the itch. So she's going to be happy.
That thing is stupid bright. Like it's a LED strip, but it also goes red. And then the spotlight on the side is also a spotlight, but you can either set it to motion sensor so you can turn it on and off with your hand, or you can just turn it on.
Dude, that's super awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
The last thing I always tell people is one thing that I get hit up with all the time from this show is people that are living an unhealthy lifestyle that are trying to make the choice to live a healthy lifestyle. And bro, you did that. Like you're not talking the talk, you're walking the walk. If any people want to reach out to you to inquire about like the discipline or the decisions or the what it took to be down fucking 40 pounds in 6 months, are you comfortable with me putting your Instagram in the show notes below?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And what is it again? Also say it here.
I'm going to look at it because I don't know what it actually is. I'm not that cool.
Well, dude, it's not important. I can literally just attach it to the screen or the show notes below. People can swipe up and click that directly.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's _Mr. MISTER _Steve.
Okay. There you go. All right. Well, I appreciate it, man. Fucking powerful episode.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
I love episodes where I just vibe with people and 2.5 hours are gone before we know it. But let's do a follow-up in a year.
Easy day.
Once that bicep is fully healed and you're 200 pounds from being on the Stairmaster, continuing the trajectory, let's fucking touch base again, man.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, brother.